everybody, welcome in. It's another episode of Evening Words. Yes, that's right. You get an evening word, and you get an evening word, and you get an evening word over there too. Yeah, you. Welcome into Evening Words, everybody. I appreciate you joining us here on the program. My name is Keaton Nichols. You can check me out on social media at Keaton D. Nichols. Oh, man, you guys are good. I tell you, that audience, they are good. They had me fooled that time, right? Because I let them in with the welcome to the Evening Words, so they went crazy there. And I thought that, after they came down, they would be calm again whenever I said my name, and they did not, because I love that very real fake audience. And in the studio controlling that real fake audience is none other than the one and only Frosty Phoenix, Eric Nixon. Was there also applause for that?
No? What? You didn't hear it? Oh, you didn't hear it?
Oh, no, I didn't hear that portion. Maybe mine got cut right there. Maybe I can only hear my own applause. Maybe it's like one of those things.
It shouldn't be. That's a problem.
He who hears it smears it or something. I don't know. There's some rule with applause like that. But anyway, welcome into the show. It's Evening Words, filling in for the great Nick Taliaferro, of course, who is enjoying his vacation. Good for him. Good for Nick. Just enjoying some time. Yeah, give it for Nick. One time. Yeah, I think he does a great job. I hope he's doing a great job vacationing. I haven't checked in with him, and he hasn't checked in too much, at least with us, Eric. I don't think he's violated like the vacation contact your employer rules. I don't think, right?
He did initially, but
he did for the first couple of days. We had to swat him back. Hey, get out of here.
I thought I saw him in a meeting one time, but it might have just been by imagination.
It was a mirage, if you will.
Just my imagination.
Long time going at it. Welcome to the Thursday edition. We got a lot to discuss today. Definitely going to have your input. We'll tell you how to get in on the conversation here in just a second. Coming up at 5 o'clock, Eric, today we have our special guest of the day, if you will. He goes by Reggie Hubbard, and his organization, Active Peace Yoga, is pretty awesome. We'll tell you about it coming up at 5, and some of the things that he's doing to, sort of combat mental health issues going on in his community, other communities as well. Reggie is a great voice on this, so we'll talk to him at 5 p.m. as well. And we'll talk about a bunch of stuff today. We got a bunch of stuff. It's the last show before the end of the week, so we want to make sure we get all of our topics in, which we'll introduce here in just a moment. Oh, also, by the way, first Eagles preseason game is tonight. You know who they're playing, right, Eric? Of course. They're playing my Pittsburgh Steelers. Should be a pretty exciting game. We'll preview that game for you at the end of the show with our guy Jovan Alfred of Sports, also DK Nation and editor-in-chief of the Sports Daily. So not going to want to miss that coming up at the end of the show. We'll send you right into that because the game starts about 30 minutes after we get off. So we'll send you off with something positive to end the week as well. Even if you have to talk about beating my Pittsburgh Steelers, it's okay. It's preseason. I can handle it. 1 out of every 4 years, we play each other in the regular season. And I don't know how often, maybe once every 2 years, I think we play each other in preseason. I like the all-PA thing. Keep it going. It should be an awesome time. Eric, it's going to be hot enough. I read this earlier at the game today that folks that are going to that game will actually be allowed to carry water in some instances. You have to keep to the rules and regulations of the park, of the stadium. But you're allowed to bring water to today's game because it is that hot in the Philadelphia right now. It is that hot. Do you feel the heat, Eric?
Unfortunately, not to be able to connect with our listeners, I have been indoors since a good portion of the morning and afternoon. So I'm not feeling it now, Mr.
You are
Krabs.
Not feeling the heat.
I'm not feeling it, Mr. Krabs.
Well, trust me, it's hot outside. I don't know if you've been out there recently, but it is hot. So make sure you all are staying cool. The perfect place to be to cool off from the heat, maybe on your porch, maybe on the lower level of the house with the AC cranking, whatever it is. The best place to be is in front of a radio or a phone or a computer listening to WURD Radio. WURDradio.com is a good way you can connect as well. In case you don't have your radio by or you're not in your car, you can listen to it anytime on WordRadio.com, crystal clear HD sound. If you're more of the app person, you like to click on the Word Radio icon and just kind of hear Word. If ease and convenience is kind of your thing, check out the app. It's free. Word Radio on your Android or Apple app marketplace, and that'll be the best way to connect in with us. Also, of course, you could just call in 215-634-8065 or toll free 1-866-361-0900. Eric, let's get to the stories of the day. Oh, let me not skip over anything here. If you're listening to us via Facebook or YouTube as well, our YouTube community, Eric, is very strong. That's something new since the last time I was doing this kind of thing regularly here. But I am just really proud at the job that the social media team there does, the streaming setups that we have now and things like that, just getting it out to all the people that want to hear it. So make sure you check us out, youtube.com/onWURD if you'd like a visual, or on Facebook, of course, where you could always catch us. Now, my friend, let us get into some of the news stories for the day. This is the story that grabbed my attention immediately. And that is, of course, I saw this on the Hill, but it's a number of places. Minorities fueled America's growth over the last 10 years, according to the U.S. Census. Get this. This is a part of a story. I don't know if, we've been following it somewhat here at WURD over the last couple of years, but I heard somebody describe this concept as the browning of America, or the tanning, rather, of America. How, especially over the last 10, 15, 20 years, the country has certainly taken on a much different tilt in terms of its racial makeup. And so that means a lot less white people are going to be considered, white people rather are going to make up a much smaller percentage, I should say, of the country. And minority groups, African Americans, Latinos, Asians, going on and on and on, minority, anyone that's not white, right? These populations are going to grow in terms of percentages and in some cases numbers. And so we got a report today from the U.S. Census. Oh, yeah, there was a whole census this past year. I totally forgot about that until reading this article. Here we are 8 months into the next year, that all the crazy stuff that happened last year, somehow they got a census done. Amazing. But anyway, according to data and information from that was newly released today, the growth in the American population was really driven by minority communities. Non-Hispanic whites make up for 58% of the American population. And the significant part about that is it's the first time that since the census was conducted, that whites have fallen under that 60% mark, under that 60% threshold, I guess, if you will. I saw another article that put it, this is the first time that America's population has been this, has been this minority led, or hasn't been this white since 1790. Since 1790, I didn't even know they had accurate information. Probably didn't, but at that point, this is the first time in a long time. And we've also seen from conservatives, the reason why I bring this up, we've seen from conservatives in the past sort of tactics that seemingly are aimed at sort of destroying the culture that might allow for a growth of minority communities in this country. And they're very serious about it. And it sometimes comes out in sort of whimsical ways. Eric, I don't know if you remember this a number of years ago, but my girl Megyn Kelly over there on Fox News, pretty much led a charge, or she was a part of a group that led a charge against the concept of a black Santa Claus. Like, we can't be having black people portray Santa Claus because it's destroying the whole concept of Christmas. Now, the argument in and of itself, just in that example, of course, is ridiculous. But the idea behind all of that whole Christmas fiasco, if you will, and many of the other sort of, talking points that oftentimes conservatives take aim at and sort of try and, knock out on this point, is the idea that, look, minorities are fine. If minorities find their way into more significant parts of the American culture, if you will, what we consider to be sacred and a part of the central and core foundational American culture, if more people of color find themselves a part of that, then suddenly the systems of whiteness kind of start to break down a little bit. The idea that whiteness is great because it's in such great numbers, and it's been so it's been so dominant for so long, and it's been the it's the majority of the culture. These sort of concepts start to lose some of their luster, if you will. And there is a greater and further growing argument that minorities ought to be respected, if you will, within the borders of this country, as not just as minorities, not just as features of an otherwise white country, but maybe the actual core and foundation of this country isn't white anymore. Maybe it's something else. And if that's the case, then does that mean that white people aren't on top anymore? White people aren't in power anymore? I mean, the numbers and the results that we got from this, the results of this census certainly prove that from a numerical perspective, right? But this has been happening. This has been happening over the last 20 years. In 2020, the census showed that non-Hispanic whites made up just over 69% of the population. In 2010, it showed that they made up 63.7% of the population. Now, as I mentioned before, it's at just under 58%, a declining percentage of whiteness. Tell me what you think about this. 215-634-8065. If this is even significant to you, if this even matters to you. Now, whenever I also say that minorities are fueling growth over the last 10 years, this data basically is measuring, and I'm sure we could go deeper into the numbers as to, and we will go deeper into the numbers as to who exactly out of the minority groups, which group out of the minority groups or of those minority communities seem to be the fastest growing, or, in certain, all that data I'm sure is a part of this report as well. This particular report about the report, if you will, describes whiteness, which is shrinking. So it's not necessarily to say that there's more black people in the country, that the black population, is per se the sort of keystone of the growth. But it does show that, non-white communities do seem to be comprising a much larger percentage of this country. I want to know what you think that means. 215-634-8065 is our telephone number. 215-634-8065 or toll free 1-866-361-0900. I'll take your responses online or on the phones. Let's go to West Virginia early here. Let's go to Hemby, giving us a call on the line as well. How you doing, Hemby?
I'm doing good. Peace up, peace up, peace up.
Peace up all the time. You know it.
Like Keaton, really quick, before I get to my point, I really like to see a discussion, like a 1-hour discussion between you and Dr. Aaron Anderson, the rapping professor.
Smith.
Yeah. I just want to get a discussion about America, the state of America, and all different issues, because, I mean, you both are brilliant. You both are knowledgeable, and I think it would just be a fresh breath of fresh air for the listeners to get an understanding in the state of America after the pandemic, in post this race issues that are going on throughout the country, police brutality, and all those issues. I would love to see that. That's a program request.
Okay, all right. Well, we will definitely put that in the drawer for sure. That there's different dynamic types of programming that we're doing here at WURD when it comes to that kind of stuff too. So definitely stay tuned.
Yeah, because what I want to see more discussion, because 2022 is just around the corner, and this election is going to be another important election. Biden was able to stall things and derail things, the direction that the country was going to. In 2022, the Republicans are trying to get back in. So we need to wake the electoral, people who are voting to be able to just educate them and then have a discussion. I would love to see that. But what I wanted to ask you, your guest at the end of the hour, if you can just ask him whether, I don't know if you know, Oklahoma and Texas, they're both going to SEC. So whether a super conference is going to work, because if you look at the NBA, super teams did not work. Golden State, they had a run, but they kind of struggled in the end. So I just wonder if you can touch base on that, a super conference in college football, whether it's going to work or not.
I will write that down. You might be listening right now, so hopefully you can remember that one. And Jovan is a great resource for college sports as well, so I'll be sure to ask him that. Personally, the SEC is already a super. The SEC is already a super conference, and so what are they adding? They're adding Oklahoma and who else? What is it? Clemson or something? Texas. I'm sorry. Yeah. They're adding OU in Texas. I think it really, does a lot of damage to the Big 12 because, like what other teams, bring a lot of power to the Big 12 conference now. Like if you have out of the top 10 football programs in America, you have, 4 or 5 of them that are all playing in one conference. Excuse me, even if not necessarily the 10 best right now, but the 10 best programs over the last 20 years are playing, half of them are playing in the same conference. Like I think what it does is it creates more intriguing matchups throughout the year, which is good for TV. And it's good for, all the networks that bring you college football, which, are trying to figure out better ways that they can kind of cut a chunk out of the TV money for NCAA right now. That's what I really think that it comes down to. If you're talking about level of competition, if you're somebody that likes watching college football because you like, seeing the matchups and you like kind of the, watching the growth and the development of players, I don't necessarily think that it's good for that kind of stuff. But monetarily, what we've talked about here on this show as well, with athletes now being able to control a larger chunk of, how much they get paid for their likeness and for their image and things like that, it's probably something that the players would be more likely to go along with as well when it comes to, building these, as you mentioned, super teams or super conferences. Because now if you go to the SEC, you go to one of those schools now, there's going to be a lot of attention. There's going to be a lot of eyes on those games because of how much, they're going to be related to the TV contracts and all that other stuff. That's way down the line, but just what I anticipate with some of the realigning of conferences. Previously, it's been about competition or realigning, schools that have reached a different level. This time, I think it is all about the money. 215-634-8065 is our telephone number. 215-634-8065. We'll have our question of the day on the other side, plus more headlines. And tell me what you think about the idea that the white population in America is shrinking. In the year 2000, it was just over 69% of the population. Now, 20 years later, that number sits just under 58% here in the United States. Less than 58% of the entire country is white right now, according to the census data. Tell me what you think that means, if it means anything to you as well. On the phone lines, 215-634-8065, youtube.com/onWURD or facebook.com/4WURD. We'll be right back after a quick break with more evening words after this.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good afternoon. Watch for an accident now on the boulevard. It's on the northbound side between Wissahickon Avenue and Broad Street. We've got the left lane blocked and delays go back to the Schuylkill Expressway. On 76, we're heavy eastbound Blue Route to Belmont Avenue, also Montgomery Drive all the way to South Street. Westbound backs up between Girard Avenue and the Boulevard and City Avenue to Belmont. 95 northbound, we've got volume from the Vine Expressway to Bridge Street. Southbound, we back up through the construction. Cottman to Bridge. Also, we back up Betsy Ross Bridge to Girard Avenue. And the Vine Expressway, that's heavy eastbound. 76 all the way to 95. Report brought to you by Smart Mouth, the only 24-hour mouthwash with twice daily use. Big interview. You check your suit, your resume, your palms, but wait, did you check your breath? Get Smart Mouth, the only mouthwash that provides 24 hours of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day. Find Smart Mouth in the mouthwash aisle at CVS or get 20% off at smartmouth.com/radio. And for more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. I'm Jason Lee with your Philadelphia area traffic.
I'm Bill Height, Superintendent of the School District of Philadelphia. I'm excited to tell you that we will ring the bell on our first day of school on Tuesday, August 31st. Full day, in-person learning, 5 days a week. We've been preparing for a healthy and safe return to our schools. Learn more about our efforts at philasd.org/ringthebell. That's philasd.org/ringthebell. See you on August 31st.
Stage Door, focusing on arts and culture in and around Philadelphia. Hosted by Tiffany Bacon and co-moderated by Jeffrey Page of the Philadelphia Theater Company. Part of The Source, Fridays at noon, exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on WURDradio.com, the WURD Radio app, or watch live on WURD TV via Facebook and YouTube. Sponsored by New Voices sponsor Comcast, NBC Universal, and Pico. The Black Words Book Club. WURD Radio's conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. The Black Words book for September is Race Against Time, The Politics of a Darkening America by Keith Boykin. Be sure to listen live as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, September 14th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention 4WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at 4WURD. WURD TV. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
Hey, welcome back. It's Evening Words right here on 96.1 FM, 900 on your AM dials as well. I'm your host, Keaton Nichols. Check me out on the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that other stuff at Keaton D. Nichols. Make sure you follow me, folks. Like, I don't want to get to, like, after next week and then people forget that I exist. You know? They're like, oh, man, we didn't follow. Keaton said it every day when he was on the show to follow him. And I forgot to do it. Shame on me. At Keaton D. Nichols. Make sure you keep it nice, folks. Be nice. It's my only rule on social media. You want to be friends? Let's be nice. 215-634-8065. Less whites in America by percentage, at least, than there ever has been since America has been, you know, America. They said since 1790, but I thought about this, Eric, during the break. And, you know, in 1790, how do we even know that they were even counting black people or other minorities that might have been in the country fairly? And then once I thought about that in 1790, I was like, well, what about like 1890? Like 100 years later, I'm sure they probably weren't too great at being able to truly find where all the minorities were in this country for an accurate count. And I was like, man, that's crazy. Like for 100 years, who would know? And then I thought about 1980, and I was like, you know what? They probably weren't even really all that great at it then. Like the data and the tracking tools that we have now are absolutely top notch. And since 2000, they've certainly been pretty good and getting better. Like the technology leaps that we saw from 2000 to now have been like astronomical. Like if somebody lived to be like 99, like they lived from like 1900 to 1999 and they never saw anything. Let's say they went into a coma, let's say at 99, right? And they didn't see anything for 20 years and they woke up the oldest person alive. They would be shocked for a number of reasons. Like the world has advanced a lot in the last 20 years, you know? So the tracking and the data and the information that we have for this, I'm sure, is a lot more accurate. But according to these numbers, America has never been less white. Could that have something to do with the politics of the day? Tell me what you think. 215-634-8065. Prince is next up on the line, giving us a call from Schuylkill. How you doing, Prince?
Hey, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Are you familiar with Helen Gim, City Council person Helen Gim?
At large, yes.
Okay. So she, as soon as she got in City Council, she created her own charter school. And in her charter school, it has a bunch of tax credit and child care credit. So that means she has a bunch of minorities, African-American females, and a bunch of African-American children. And in that school, since we say that the school system was so bad, it's not teaching Mandarin or Cantonese. It's just teaching what the regular schools teach. But she said that the stores in the black communities are invaluable. The Chinese stores that sell, the stop and goes, and Chinese store that sell day-old food and alcohol are invaluable to the community. And I just wanted to spin on that because culturally, you know, the damage has been done by not just those stores, the Dominican stores as well, with the constant selling of the paraphernalia,
like the stop and goes and stuff like that.
Yeah, the paraphernalia to do the drugs as well as the alcohol in that community right there. And so when you start talking about the decrease in white people. But if the increase is other cultures that brought into us as an economic base, and all they rely on is our economics, and they destroy us as a community, then we need to take a look at that. So if we're reducing white flight is leaving and other cultures are coming in and we're still in the same bad predicament, then we got to work on that. And I'll hang up and I'll listen to your thoughts. Thank you, man.
Thank you for your call, Prince. And this is one of the things that I mentioned at the top, too, that's a part of this story. It's a big part of this story, right? Like, if there's a decrease in whiteness, that means there's an increase in everything else. And oftentimes that is a category that's just lumped all together, right? Like, even in this report, like, you have to read pretty far down before you start getting into splits, as they're oftentimes called in sports, right? Like a number, the breakdown of a number that's already a stat, you know, for something. Like the splits on this don't come until much farther down the page, and it goes into, you know, what percentage of Americans live in urban areas as opposed to metropolitan areas, as opposed to rural areas, as opposed to, you know, like all this other stuff, right? But, you know, to that point, it's not just black and white. Here we go. Literally, this issue is not just black and white, right? Like the other minority groups, of which Latinos, Asians, and other groups as well fall under that category of minorities. They're growing in different ways. Like, we understand, like, you brought up the example of Helen Gim, and you know, Helen Gim is at the very least, you can say she's repping for her community. I can't fault her for that. And using sort of the idea that Asians as a minority do need representation. They do need somebody to stand up and say, hey, we need to be able to protect the cultural thing, or the things that we find culturally relevant in our neighborhoods too. There's nothing inherently wrong with Helen Gim or anybody else really doing that on behalf of the Asian community. All the same, using her power as a city council person, whatever that is, using her leverage to create entities around the school and fund different entities around the school that are more so along her terms as well. I might not always agree with it. You might not always agree with it, but that's how she wants to use her power. By all means, she can do that. But I think on the flip side, I guess the other side of that question also is who are the advocates for the African-American community? We used to have somebody, Eric, that used to call in and always mention that, and now I can't come up with who it is, but you used to ask that all the time of the Biden administration, or of the what would have been the potential Hillary Rodham Clinton administration. And the question was like, who is your guy? Like, who is your person, you know, whoever that is a go-between or a representative, if you will, of the black community. Like, there isn't that one person. There isn't that, if you will, that advocate on behalf of the black community that you can always point to and say, this person is, you know, continually fighting on that, you know, on behalf, you know, specifically for just that issue. We oftentimes have community groups, we have reverends, we have, you know, organizations all around the city that the city sometimes references in terms of saying, like, hey, what do we do about, you know, all the killings, or what do we do about the black people being shot, right? You know, there are people who are willing to speak up and speak out on behalf of people that find themselves in neighborhoods that, let's say, are mostly black, right? But do we have those advocates that are willing to say, look, I'm willing to risk my political capital for my people? Which is, I know that's a big ask in this particular situation when it comes to politics, because that might not necessarily be the most politically advantageous thing to do. But I think that's another way of looking at that question. Look, Helen Gim definitely holds it down for her folks, and that's cool. She might not hold it down for other groups outside of that, but where are the people that are holding it down for us in city council? I'm not talking about just black council people. There's a difference, right? Like, big difference between black council people or council people of color and, you know, a city representative that's actually going to adhere to the needs of African Americans. And I promise that's not a back-ended shot at anybody who's serving on council right now who finds themselves African American as well. I'm just asking the philosophical question: who is that person? I don't mind Helen Gim doing it, but who's the person, you know, doing it on behalf of us? Who's the person willing to risk their political capital for us, locally, state level, or federally? Tell me what you think. 215-634-8065. 215-634-8065. George from Center City is next up on the line. How you doing, George?
And fine. How you doing? And you've been doing a good job filling in for the big man.
Thank you, sir.
At least we ain't got to hear fat jokes. Realistically, Stumbling Gim, I mean, and I'm really surprised that you even speak in the terms of knowing that first of all, she's not head of the education chair in Philadelphia. She's in city council. She has nothing whatsoever to do with education. She has nothing whatsoever to do with homelessness. And she act like Maria Sanchez can't speak up for herself. That's Maria Sanchez's place to talk about education, to go. I mean, why was she in Harrisburg? Other than for a show to say that she wants to run.
It was a big show. It was.
Right.
But
right.
I mean, that's a part of the brand of kind of how we know these folks and how they operate. But
it's not her job.
It's not her job. I understand where you're saying, like, sometimes tactfully, it gets kind of in a gray area there, and I agree with you on that one. I guess my only argument was saying that, like, what Helen Gim is doing is she's using her leverage to get things done for her community or her people, however you want to define that.
You're absolutely right. That's right. The Asians got more than blacks got already. Biden gave them a bill. Black folks don't have nothing. They didn't even have to wait 90 days for theirs. And here we begging and sucking and kissing and everything else for Biden to do something. And she always used black people. You know how they say the easiest way to get something, use black women? Well, she does a very good job at that. She pimps them to no end. And then you have all those kiss her up, suck her up, don't know nothing. If she wanted to talk about something today, what she should have talked about is that all those people who are in PHA who receive that PAA money, if they haven't filed their taxes on it, they will automatically legally terminate. You know what that means? You're going to have a whole lot of PHA people out on the street. But she can't say that. She always is something that she has nothing to do with. She's totally disrespectful to black women and black men, because I will never see her at any event or trying to go somewhere where white folks is in charge. There's not one white committee, a person that's a chairperson at any kind of committee in city council. You ever heard her raise her voice, sit there and do some kind of press conference? She only do it on black women and Hispanic women. She's beginning to treat Maria Sanchez like Maria's dirt. I mean, let me tell you something about Gim. Gim don't respect black people. And any fool who thinks that is a bigger fool than I thought they would be. The woman does everything in writing, and if you see all her legislation, it's always something free. You know, see, that's why it's trifling people who follow her, because nothing is free. Everything come at a cost. She wants you to live free. She don't want you to pay everything. And if you look at how she votes right along with Sherelle Parker. Everything anti-black. Now, I'm telling you, everything I'm saying is a matter of public information. Public record. All you got to do is go to the chief clerk's office, pull up the bills, and you see everything I'm saying is true. I don't waste my time on BS because I have better things to do. I don't have no time to waste, and the time I have to waste, I don't waste it on BS.
I got you, George. And I didn't. And this is not necessarily intended on turning something towards, Helen Gim or somebody, specifically in that situation. I know that sometimes it's easy to do that with our city council people because there's a level of frustration there and an expectation that they continually don't meet. I hear a lot of your concerns, George, about Helen Gim. This is not what we're intended on doing, is zeroing in on what she's got going on. But to that point, I do think that to your point, rather, George, about kind of how she might leverage. I'll use a better word. I'll say leverage different groups around the city. I mean, she is far from the only person to do that. And I am not in Helen Gim's camp. I don't, I'm not in communication with any of her people. But I'm assuming that, look, you want to win. Like, you could tell that Helen Gim is not the type of person that's just kind of consistent or kind of content, rather, with staying consistent where she is. Like, she wants to move on. She wants to move up. She wants to be considered a bigger deal. And so the rules of politics, the game of politics, if you will, typically follows this pattern that says if you do X, Y, and Z, typically you'll be put in the fast lane to be given bigger responsibilities later. She was just like arrested, quote unquote, arrested in Harrisburg a couple of weeks ago. I saw that all the way over here in Pittsburgh, that making headlines. And that's the kind of thing that can get your name in the news. It can get you a few pictures snapped about you fighting for advocacy. People might not know or, the name of their council person or their state rep until a situation like that happens. And so you can kind of tell that that's the environment there. But she's leveraging those other groups. because she wants to win. That's been the political game. Now, the problem is that oftentimes black folks have been the pawn, if you will, used for certain political groups, forwarding certain political groups' agendas, and also, of course, retaining or gaining some portion of the black vote for that area. But all of those things factor in to that decision. We're up against the break, so I want to make sure I get all of Gary from Southwest's call in on the other side. You could be right after that. 215-634-8065, toll free 1-866-361-0900. That's our telephone number. Hit us up, YouTube and Facebook right now. Just search Word Radio on either one of those and watch the show live. Leave a comment. Do whatever you want. Just be nice. We'll be right back here on Evening Words after these short messages.
Get in and get seen at the Einstein Orthopedics Fracture Care Clinic. If you think you've broken a bone or have been told by your doctor that you have a fracture, the Einstein Fracture Care Clinic offers same-day, in-person, or telehealth appointments. We don't just give you peace of mind. Einstein Orthopedics provides answers when you need them. Visit einstein.edu/fracturecare to learn more.
Are you a small business owner in Philadelphia or New Jersey? Are you looking for ways to grow your business but don't know where to start? You may qualify for a Job Creators Quest grant for up to $11,000. This grant supports diverse small business owners who are women, people of color, LGBTQ, military veterans, or located in a low to moderate income area. Imagine what you could do with extra funds to improve your company, hire more people, invest in marketing to promote your business, or even add technology to be more efficient. Founders First is on a mission to support diverse-led small businesses, and we are giving 20 grants to the local small business community for a total of $60,000. For more information, visit www.phillygrants.org. Again, go to www.phillygrants.org for details and to apply today. Congratulations to all job creators from Founders First.
I was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean when it happened. There was a sudden jolt and our submarine crashed on the seafloor. We were in total darkness.
That's Dr. Dejana Figueroa, a marine biologist and STEM teacher, talking about a deep sea dive she'll never forget.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was afraid of the ocean. And there I was, 2 miles below the surface. But as a scientist, you prepare for that. Using our training and a little creativity, we fixed the sub and finished our experiments. The dive was just too important. Every dive gives us glimpses at things few people ever get to see. Glowing creatures, fiery undersea volcanoes. When we got back to the surface, I kissed the ground and called my mom, of course. But you know what? I wouldn't trade that dive for anything.
Dr. Figueroa uses her passion for STEM to discover new things and make the world a better place. She can STEM, so can you. Check out She Can STEM for more stories and inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
This is not a fad for us.
We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are
undeniably,
indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media.
WURD. WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at WURD. WURD TV. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Well, welcome back to Evening Words right here on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, and on the app. Just search WURD in your Apple App Store. Make sure you remember to stand with WURD, the only black-owned talk radio station in Pennsylvania. Did you know that you can join the 4WURD movement and amplify voices of the black community as a digital member? This is big, Eric. I want folks to listen to this. Folks might, skip over it here. I want you to lock in here. A digital member can join for as low as $5 per month. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Visit wordradio.com or give us a call at 215-425-7875. to show your support. We need you. Join or renew your 4WURD membership today. Digital members, $5. Come on, I know you got that. So hit us up. 215-634-8065 is the telephone number to call in to get in on this conversation, or you can hit us up on YouTube or on Facebook. Here on YouTube, Demetrius Robinson, Malcolm White, and Tim Hand all checking in. I appreciate you guys for commenting in thus far. Demetrius Robinson, in response to the census story, says, can you say South Africa apartheid? Referencing the shrinking numbers of the white population here in America, according to the census. Goes on to say the population under South Africa's apartheid system did not factor in the dominance of the white minority. So that's interesting information, certainly. And we are kind of talking about with these new numbers that say now less than 58% of America is white or identifies as white. Might, how that might factor into what happens in the future, what has been happening in the last 5 to 10 years. Maybe we can attribute some of the things like the rise of Trumpism on the conservative right to concepts like this. The idea that as whites see their world, if you will, shrinking, they see their culture shrinking as well. And a lot of America, I talk about this all the time, a lot of America and how great America is, if you will, really comes down to the perception that Americans give off, right? Like Americans have to feel a certain particular pride about themselves, or they don't have to, rather, but Americans do feel a particular pride about themselves. And that pride oftentimes overextends past the reality of how great America actually is. But that's kind of a part of the facade, right? Like America in part is great because we say it's great. And then, once you drill down further into the culture, America is great because of these things, these cultural icons, these things like baseball and apple pie, some of the more whimsical ones. But when you really drill down into what being an American is and having an American culture defined by something, I still think that the majority of whites would like to think of this as a white country that also has many minorities in it. I think that that's still kind of a comfortable thought. But once we start introducing this idea that there are more minorities than there are whites in this country, we now kind of have to start to define this country in many different in a bit of a different way. The cultural foundations of this country are, will truly be different. And what happens to a group of people when they lose their cultural advantage, when they lose their numbers and they lose the cultural advantage? History tells us that people get tight. These groups of people get tight and they start to get defensive about holding out on, about holding on to their numerical advantage, their cultural advantage. And that might happen in some weird ways. Perhaps it's already been happening in some weird ways. Looking at you, Trump. 215-634-8065. Gary is next up on the line, giving us a call from Southwest. Wanted to comment on this one. Gary, how you doing?
Hey, how are you, Keaton? I just wanted to say that term minority, I really don't like that term. My ancestors who were once enslaved are responsible for building America and creating all the wealth that America that America has now. I'm sorry. So when we say minority, when you talk about the Asian community and other people that come from other countries that come here, when they come here, I've noticed they look down on us in our communities. You go to our neighborhoods, those stop and goes that are selling undesirables in our community. I'm talking about the Asian community. And I think that it's very troubling that they can have any issue with how they're perceived or treated in this country when they're selling that poison to our people in our community. And our leadership, in my opinion, has not done anything to get justice, so to speak, for our people. We're not a minority. We're a great people. We didn't ask to come here. However, they used our labor to build America and create all the wealth with the insurance companies, the banks, and everything else. And look at our condition. Look at Philadelphia, the poorest big city in the nation, majority African American. They don't care about us. And until we come together as a people and look at the real picture, and some of our own people who look just like us have sold us down the river and could care less about the condition of our people. And when you look at history, our people have contributed so much to human civilization. It's incredible. But we don't get the credit. It's not taught. And, you know, even in history, if they would have taught true history, you probably wouldn't have the level of racism we have today, because white people
you are
would
absolutely
know
correct
the
about
truth.
that.
They would know the truth. All of your inventions, everything, basically was invented by us. And for them not to have this in the school system to teach all of America is criminal. And for us to be a major black city to not have our history taught, or in the nation, period, is the greatest betrayal. And our leadership, a lot of our politicians, we have to stop. I don't put anybody on a pedestal because they're not working for us. We're paying them, but they're not working for us. They're working for that minority that controls all of the wealth. And until we wake up, even the music that they contaminate in our society with our children, the drugs, that's why we're in such dire straits today. And you see the things that are going on in all the major cities. The drugs are being pumped in. Where are the guns coming from? We didn't bring them in. So until we stop listening to this garbage on the radio, watching that garbage on TV, and come together as a people and kick out all those people who smile and grin in our faces, who look like us, but could care less than 2 cents about us, Keaton. For real. I am adamant about that. I am so tired of these backstabbing individuals who call themselves politicians who represent us. We need to wake up and smell the coffee.
Very much so, man. And you know, Gary, I really appreciate that call. I could feel and you know, sort of sense the passion about this, and you're far from the only person that feels passionate about this issue. This has been, you know, now that we're here, now that we're coming back around to this issue, because I do think it is important, you know, that as a minority group, as you said, Gary, I don't like that word either. I wish we could maybe find a different way. People of color is oftentimes a good one. But I think in reference to this conversation, of course, we're talking about numbers and shrinking percentages and things like this. Minority is only to say that the smaller demographic group of people here and nothing else, just for clarity purposes on that one. But I feel you, Gary. I don't like using the term either. But there's a lot, I think, that a lot of teaching. I think you hit something, excuse me, when you talked about teaching and a concept that we've been talking about too, critical race theory. How can we start to tell the real story of America, which is a very complex story? I love American history in that I've studied it a lot more than other forms of history. I've dug pretty deep into certain stories. I'm a history buff, like I'm a minor history buff. Like I'm not like super built. Like I don't hit the history gym every day, but like I go once a week, Eric, you know what I mean? Like that's what kind of history buff I am. At any point, us getting the story right of teaching America's history is not just a talking point. It is not a, teaching the aspects of critical race theory is not just a political football to kick around, right? Like something that Democrats can latch onto and something that Republicans can fight tooth and nail. Like when we discuss issues like critical race theory, we're going into the bag and we're pulling out things that define America. There are situations that define America. And in defining America, that's an important concept, because if we don't define it right, then we won't fix it. Fix the things that are wrong with it. If we were saying we're just this great country and this great nation, that's obviously not going to happen. When you zero into the situations happening within neighborhoods of minority communities, let's say, we can say something like, we can look at this report and say that minority communities may be growing by percentage, but what's happening to those minorities within those communities? Are all those minorities treated the same way? No. We've seen that time and time again as well. So now within communities that might be blanketed over with the term of minority, or people that might be blanketed over with the title of minority, may be ignored. The specific needs of certain groups within those minorities, those needs might be ignored. in terms of representation and how this plays into the political element of things, there are, Democrats certainly are the party of the minority, if you will. There's not really a whole lot of non-white people that are Republicans. They just don't really float over to that side of the ball. Not usually. They exist, most certainly, but they're not usually, right? So the Democrats are usually the ones to take on this challenge. And the frustration over, I know, an earlier caller had brought up Helen Gim. A couple of earlier callers brought up Helen Gim, who is considered, as an Asian, she's considered a minority. And in many eyes, people look at her like that. If we had to categorize her, split the world into minorities and non-minorities, which people do all the time, she falls on that minority side of things, if you will. But you notice that she doesn't operate through the city and through politics in the city the same way that African Americans do, just as an example, or Latinos do, just as an example. And so when we see that, especially as a minority, what are you supposed to do? Like, should we be angry and upset at Asian and Latino communities because they seem to be taking up critical spaces that us as African Americans could use and that could take advantage of, and that the spaces that they are taking up aren't exactly always advantageous to the cultural enhancements of our community, as has been mentioned before with, stores, stop and goes, other things that might foster a seedy environment, if you will? Is there enough room for all of us to do well? Well, I think yes, to answer that question, yes, there is enough room for all of us. There's enough money for all of us to go around. There's enough space. There's enough everything for everybody to be happy in this country. Trust and believe that that is the case. But I don't think that we call ourselves a part of a system that necessarily starts all the runners off at the same starting point. When the starter pistol goes off, pop. We're not all starting from the same spot. And I think that systemic flaw of a free and fair country is an unignorable point in all of this. We can't forget that. So even as minority, quote unquote, communities continue to grow, we got to keep our eye on how this growth is helping us as a community. Just because we have larger numbers doesn't mean that, we're necessarily in a better place. America says that's the way it should be, but doesn't always necessarily mean that. So appreciate the phone calls. Let's get into a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about violence in the city. Is what Philadelphia is set to hand out in the next couple of weeks. Is that going to make a difference in your eyes? Is it a good idea for the city to hand money directly to groups working to combat violence in the city? You can answer that question on the other side as well. Give us a call, 215-634-8065, facebook.com/4word, FORWURD. Of course, hit us up, youtube.com/onWURD. Be right back in a few minutes with more Evening Words right here on Word Radio.
AARP is working to protect Americans 50 plus by making sure you have the latest information about the COVID-19 vaccines and the distribution plans in Pennsylvania. Just visit aarp.org/PA vaccine to learn who's eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine, when, where, and how to get it in Philadelphia and the rest of the Commonwealth, and what you might want to discuss with your doctor. That's aarp.org/PA vaccine.
Hey there, beautiful. Have you had severe hair loss? Do you have a scalp disorder? Is your hair thinning around the edges and crown? If you answer yes to any of these questions, give us a call at 215-225-2442 to schedule a consultation with Babes Holistic Hair Salon located at 3117 North Broad Street. Babes Holistic Hair Salon is dedicated to improving your inner and outer beauty. This ad is brought to you by the North Broad Renaissance and Truist Foundation.
Word Radio Digital Tip of the Month
with Stephanie Humphrey.
Brought to you by Comcast.
You might be enjoying the hot days of summer, but your smartphone probably isn't. Hotter temperatures can potentially damage your phone, so here are some things you can do to keep it cool. Don't leave your phone in direct sunlight or locked in a car if possible. And if you don't absolutely need it, ditch the smartphone case too. That can easily trap heat. Change the settings to lower the brightness, turn off data, put your phone in airplane mode mode or try to do less high-powered activities like gaming. If you do notice your smartphone overheating, turn it off and take out the battery if you can. And don't try to cool it down by putting it in a refrigerator or freezer. Just keep your phone in a cool area for a while until it returns to room temperature. Stay cool, stay tuned to WURD for more tips, and stay connected with us at wordradio.com.
Join WURD for the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour. This year, we celebrate West Oak Lane, Mantua, North, West, and South Philly. I'm Tiffany Bacon. I'll broadcast live from a different neighborhood each Friday from 10 a.m. until 12 noon. Our next stop is North Philly at the Martin Luther King Recreation Center, 2101 Cecil B. Moore Avenue on Friday, August 13th. Pick up voter registration information, meet special guests, and stand with WURD and be a part of the movement to amplify the voice of the Black community. Show your support and join or renew your 4WURD membership on site. That's the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour at the Martin Luther King Recreation Center from 10 a.m. until 12 noon, Friday, August 13th. WURD, showing love this summer.
The WURD Radio Neighborhood Love Tour is sponsored by Comcast and supported by Pico, Keystone First, Ready Set Philly, and Hope Partnership for Education. Be there this Friday at the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour and stand with WURD Radio to amplify voices of the Black community as a digital 4WURD member for as low as $5 per month. And receive a free gift for signing up. See you on Friday and join Tiffany Bacon, 10 a.m. till noon at the Martin Luther King Recreation Center, 2101 Cecil B. Moore Avenue. Or visit wordradio.com. Start or renew your 4WURD membership today. This is WURD Radio,
96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media. WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at 4WURD. WURD TV. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent Black media.
Welcome back. It's Evening Words right here on WURD Radio. I'm your host, Keaton Nichols, for tonight, filling in for the great Nick Taliaferro, who is on vacation, living it up, kicking his feet up somewhere, probably listening to this show, trying to be a sidecar producer. I can see it now. Nick, if you're listening and you hear this right now, this is your reminder that you are supposed to be vacationing right now. 215-634-8065. We're talking about this report out of this is the census. Okay, so this is like where this is the central information. This is about as accurate as you're going to get when it comes to population counts and things like that, and demographic breakdowns, all of that. And so what the data released today says is that non-Hispanic whites make up just under 58% of the American population. That's the first time the American population has been comprised of less than 60% of white people since, since they've been counting how many people are in this country. The article says, by contrast, the 2000 census showed that The 2000 census showed that non-Hispanic whites made up just over 69% of the population. Today, that number, again, is just under 58% of the population. Declining whiteness in America. What is the effect? What does it mean? Tell me what you think. 215-634-8065. We had an interesting comment on the YouTube. The YouTube is popping, man. I'm telling you, the YouTube might be the best new place to watch the show. I know it's not new. But for those of you that maybe are listening on the app or somewhere else, check out the YouTube. It's a great place. You can interact with the community of listeners that are listening. I appreciate the folks that have been doing that over the last couple of weeks. You guys are awesome. Anyway, where's the comment here? Debatron, which is also a great name for a YouTube channel. I must say, I'm jealous that my name on YouTube is Keaton Nichols. What was that? Anyway, Debatron says, i.e. more violent. So I asked the question, like, what do you think is going to happen now as a result of a shrinking white population? Some of these things I do believe that we've already seen. She says, i.e. more violence, more suppression, more oppression, more allowance of lawlessness in our communities, etc. that's been happening, but getting easier to see. Reading this report just kind of brings it brings a lot of sense to some of the political environments that we've seen over the last couple of years. Like the rise in Trumpism. I don't know if that's the official term for it. It's just what I call it. But I think everyone knows what I'm talking about here, right? Trumpism is the conversion of the conservatives in this country from being a party that simply opposed Democrats to being a party of, like, I don't even know if there's a single word that can define them, but being a party of Trump, in short. And everything that comes from Trump then sort of, it characterizes the rest of the party in ways that we haven't seen in a long time from an individual. So how does that happen? How did we get to this point when from 2008 to 2016 in this country, it was led by an African-American man by the name of Barack Obama. In the following election, right after that, Americans elected possibly the most bigoted and racist president of all time. Maybe of all time. I don't know. Andrew Jackson was pretty bad. I feel like if we were all around for Andrew Jackson, like we see him on the 20 and maybe that softens our image of him. I'm sorry, not on the 20, on the 20, and that softens our image of him. Andrew Jackson was a terrible person. Like absolutely terrible. And there's a few other presidents that were pretty lackluster too, but for our modern memory, like Andrew Jackson was like 100 and some years ago, it feels like. When was Andrew Jackson's administration? Now here's my U.S. history buff failing me. I didn't work out enough in this department, but either way, it's more than 100 years ago. Now we have this bad reference of a bad president in Donald Trump. And it's like, how did we switch so fast? It seemed like we were so progressive in so many ways. Election of the first black president, 2008. And then it's like, whoa.
1829, 1837.
Ha! I knew it was more than 100 years ago. It's like 150 years ago. Still. 1829 to 18 what?
37.
Goodness gracious. He got 2 terms, man. Terrible, terrible president. And he shot and killed a guy in a duel. That's facts. I mean, I don't know if it's facts, actually. That's just hearsay. I wasn't around. Nobody recorded it. But anyway, point being, the shift that we saw from the last administration to this administration represented something deeper than just politics. Remember, it was, Eric, the people who elected Donald Trump to be president. This was not some sort of hack job and like the higher ups stole the election from the people that voted a different way. I know Hillary Clinton got more votes, but that's not what kind of system we have here in America. Like, we don't have a majority win system. I know that's dumb, but it's the rules. So Trump won the election, and whether or not he got a minority, if you will, of the votes or not, the fact is he won. The people put him there. There were enough people for Donald Trump to even be not just be a thing, but to be the thing of the 2016 election. That is quite a pendulum swing when you consider it's roughly the same electorate that put Barack Obama there twice in the previous 8 years. So when you ask yourself, like, what happened? This could very well be a big part of it, as Debatron has mentioned. There's been aspects of lawlessness, oppression, suppression that hasn't exactly taken on a subtle tone, if you will. It's been very demonstrative. I love using that word. But that's what it's been in the last 4 years. Could this be it? Let's see. Malcolm comments in. Malcolm White, appreciate you listening, Malcolm. He says the plan was always to maintain a permanent underclass to service and to be subordinate to white people. Right now, conservatives feel it is their birthright to rule. We as a people need collective economics like we did during the Black Wall Street era. Oh, and you've got some more comments down here. I haven't even read those yet. I'll come back around to that. But real quick, before we move on that, collective economics is most certainly something that I think allows us to kind of, pool our resources here in a bit. The only thing that I would caution against that kind of thing is that, I don't even know if it's a caution against that kind of thing, but it seems like so many times, when the answer has kind of come to, hey, can we gather together as a community and get this thing done? There have been outside forces that have, sort of disrupted those groups, and that, obviously you talk about Black Wall Street. That was a huge disruption in 1921, but now it kind of happens in a little bit different of a way. And it follows along the same rails and the same lines as some, political, some of the way that politics sort of run in the city. And that means that it could have a random arc and it could end up in a place that you really didn't expect it to at the beginning. So we need a better way to kind of whip that idea into shape of collective Black economics, and also a way that we can continue to compete in the rest of the country. Compete not just with the rest of the country, but with whatever the rest of the country has going on. Oftentimes I do see that we as a community are implementing, sort of things that will help, but certainly not things that will help us compete and continue to sort of be up there economically, at least within the range of other communities. But appreciate the comment, Malcolm. I know you have some other comments. I have to read through them first because they're coming in hot right now. Again, youtube.com/onWURD. Lola Khan, she comments in and says, yes, some anger is warranted at the politicians who are Black and in the spaces that they are for 30 years, and they just keep occupying that space and not making any changes for the Black people that they serve. So yeah, I do agree. That there's a higher expectation that I think we do have from our representatives, but there hasn't really been a lot of follow-up. There hasn't been, a lot of people that are on that concept of, hey, we're going to get better at this. We're going to do better as representatives. As somebody that looks like you, I'm going to make it a personal mission of mine, no matter how it might look for me politically, to kind of get there. But there are sacrifices with that. We talked about in the last couple of days at the federal level. Actually, we talked about this yesterday on the show as well. More radical, if you will, I don't even like that term, radical people, people with radical ideas, let's say, that find themselves a part of the, city council or, a state legislature or Congress people or the Senate. These bodies, these legislative bodies, if you will, work, best, if you will, if everyone kind of stays in line with a general, way of thinking. But as soon as you start getting folks there that start stirring the pot, if you will, that disrupts the whole process. The only question is, what place do those pot stirrers, those disruptors, have in today's politics? It's a big question, and especially in a city like Philadelphia. Philadelphia is not like other places. It's not even like other Democratic strongholds, I would argue, like New York or San Francisco or an Austin, Texas, or something like that, right? Like Philadelphia is even unique within that in terms of, how strong, non-white cultures are in the city. Absolutely. And so why does the representation seemingly not match the energy of the people that live in a lot of these neighborhoods? I actually have a lot of answers for that, but it's not one thing in particular. It's not one single thing, but it does have a lot to do with the systems that we agreed with. And you can make that argument, to a further point to kind of bring this all the way back around to the census, that those systems were built out of whiteness. That the foundations of these things were built so that there is a control aspect in mind. I'm not saying that there are secret puppeteers behind the scenes pulling the strings. I'm not going down conspiracy road here. All this stuff is right here in front of us. We don't even have to go down conspiracy road because it's here in front of us. We can see it. But some of these systems were created as a way of controlling the population. The population certainly has a lot of control going the other way. That was the revolutionary thing, no pun intended, about what America was trying to do at the time. Yes, and I know there's a lot of death and destruction and stealing of land and all types of, pillaging, going on in between that. But the concept was we're going to have a government run by the people. Like the leaders still lead, the leaders still call the shots, but, we're going to have term limits. So if once the leaders' time as leaders are done, the people can elect somebody else if they want to. So at the time, it's pretty revolutionary. Now pretty much everywhere does it like that. So we have some pushback here. We have some control over what happens, but it's still a system. It's still a system that was based on an aspect of control that right now doesn't seem very fitting for a lot of the objectives within the community. I just got to say, that's what it sounds like to me. That's what it feels like to me when we discuss these issues. 215-634-8065. And just if you want to comment in on that or hit us up on the YouTube, They're having a great conversation over there on the YouTube, Facebook as well, facebook.com/4word. Let me know what you think about the global or the countrywide minority beginning to become the majority. Also, are we called majorities now? Like, once that number reaches back, Eric, and maybe you could answer me this. Once the number goes back from 58 to 50, like once we're under that threshold, does that mean that we're now majorities?
Riddle me this, Batman. If one cup of water fills more than the other cup of water, is the other cup of water more full? And the answer is, like, basically, if one cup of water had more water than the other, and now the other is more full, which one is more full? Basically, it's saying the same thing.
Actually, that is an extremely accurate analogy.
You know, so
I mean, we never called white people majorities, though, did we?
It was implied. It was implied. It was kind of like, you know, if one labels on something that is less, then you would assume that there's the other category is either at a majority or an average.
Well, better question. Should we start referring to white people in this country at that point as minorities then?
Is that accurate, or just being
not right now, not yet?
No, is that being accurate or fair, or is it being petty?
Yes.
Both and.
Like, yeah,
both
I guess.
And, yeah, both and.
Both and. It is a little petty. But also, to our earlier caller's point, I think it was Gary who brought this up. And please correct me if I'm wrong. But Gary said, look, I don't like that word minority, right? And I feel that because the word and the term itself goes into the perception that other people have about it. You know what I mean? Like if you're referred to as a minority, like it just sounds like less than. It sounds like whatever group that you're talking about is not like with what's happening, you know, the general majority, if you will, in the country. They're minorities for a reason. Like if I go into, you know, a room and I'm like, of let's say, you know, 100 people, and I say, who in here likes chocolate chip cookies? Or I'm sorry, no, let me do it the other way. Who in here doesn't like chocolate chip cookies? You're going to have a minority of people that are going to raise their hand, right? A lesser than the bigger group. Most people like chocolate chip cookies, but there are still people that don't. So within that group, there, you know, people that like chocolate chip cookies are probably looking at the people with their hands raised and going like, what's wrong with you? You know, that might not be the outward sort of feeling or emotion, but whenever you identify a group within a larger group as being something different, minority, if you will, less of them are like this than the majority of you, that carries with it a certain connotation. I think in a part of that connotation also says whatever issues that your little group over there has, your little minorities over here, the small percentage, like whatever issues that you all have going on aren't, at the end of the day, they're not going to be more important than the issues that the majority has going on. I mean, doesn't it carry with it, automatically carry with it that context? For me, it does. So there is a lot, even in the term, even in the word, that if we were to ask ourselves, if that point ever comes, are we to refer to whites in this country as minorities? It even just feels uncomfortable, like, oh, wow, white people minorities? I don't know how they're going to take all that. I don't know how that's going to go over. 215-634-8065. 215-634-8065. Sadie giving us a call from Sharon Hill is on the line. How you doing, Miss Sadie?
I'm fine. Hi,
good.
I just wanted to, I've been thinking about this, paying attention to the news and what's going on with, I guess, everything. But basically what they were saying pretty much today on one source I was looking at, when they talk about non-white, I'd be interested in what's included in that. Now, they talked about the census and how people are counted and how it's going to change, the Congress and the Senate and so forth like that. Mm-hmm. How it's going to change the political spectrum, put it that way. Now, my question is, not too long ago, people who you now refer to as Latinx were Hispanics, okay? So I don't know if it's a change in wording or what, but you don't hear people referring to, let's say, people of Spanish-speaking origin or nature called Hispanics any longer. They're Latinx. You also have people who are Filipino and are mistaken or can be mistaken for someone who's, Latina, let's say. People who are Cuban. So I'm just wondering, when you have this broad array of people and they are listed as non-white, but then again, there's no differentiation between what ethnic group they make up, and when that becomes an issue as far as voting and, that context is concerned, who decides? That's what I'd like to do. Who makes the decision? Okay, we know that on certain paperwork they have other. What is other? What is other?
And how do they consider that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's confusing to me. I don't know if anyone else pays much attention to it. I do, but because to me it designates certain people, puts them in certain places, and I'd like to know who's in charge of that, who's doing that.
Well, that's a very good question, and it's probably a lot of factors, a lot of things that factor into that. But I would say that by the time we are seeing different racial identities show up on forms or government processes, if you will, and not even just government stuff. It shows up in other places as well. I mean, a lot of times that's for data purposes. It is so that afterwards we could say that out of the respondents, 60% of African Americans feel this way, or 75% of whites made this decision, or whatever else like that. But then if you take a step back and realize, wait, why are we breaking this down by race? Like, why does this matter in a country that is, supposed to be for everyone, everyone's equal, all this other stuff, right? And race, that's a part of race that has intrinsically become intertwined, if you will, within the fibers of what this country is. We can't get it off of us. It's not like a shirt and we could just take the shirt off and put on another shirt. It's in our DNA as Americans to sort of drill down into what the racial breakdown actually means for different people in different situations. The idea that we live in a colorblind society is totally blasted by this concept right here, that race is intrinsically a part of everything that we do as Americans. And now that it's even more difficult, maybe more difficult than ever, to draw a bold line between white communities and quote unquote other communities, as you say. Now these questions start to rise. What really is whiteness, right? Is it just, the appearance that you are white, or is it the idea that from a DNA perspective, you may have DNA and you don't have any DNA from any, or major DNA rather, from or family pieces, however that works, from anywhere that considers themselves to be a minority community? Or is it something else? Is it just, look, I claim whiteness. Maybe I have a black relative somewhere back there or a minority relative somewhere back there, but I claim whiteness. If this sheet is giving me the option here and I consider myself white, well, I'm gonna fill out white, and vice versa. Right, like if I consider myself to be of mixed race or a minority in some type of way, then maybe I'll just side with the people of color.
And some people don't answer at all.
If you're multiracial, if you're white and something else, like that's a big deal too. Do you have a 50-50 shot here to choose? So like there's all these questions that kind of go within the data collection of racial demographics. I mean, it gets a little thick sometimes. Let's get to a quick commercial break. When we come back on the other side, I'll welcome my first guest into the studio. He goes by Reggie Hubbard of Active Peace Yoga. We'll drill down into that coming up next, right here on Evening Words. I'm your host, Keaton Nichols. We'll be right back after this.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good afternoon. Watch for some volume 95 northbound between Namens Road and Highland Avenue from an earlier crash has been cleared out of the way. More delays 95 northbound Columbus Boulevard to Bridge Street. Southbound we back up Copland Bridge in the construction zone. Also the Walt Whitman Bridge to Island Avenue, and again Ridley Park to Market Street. Schuylkill eastbound, that's heavy. Blue Route to Belmont. Also Montgomery Drive to the Vine. Westbound backs up University Avenue to the Boulevard, and the Boulevard is slow northbound from 76 on out to Broad Street. Report brought to you by HHS's Health Resources and Services Administration, or HRSA. When it comes to matching organs for transplant, everyone can help. Did you know that people of different ethnicities can donate to each other? Get the facts about organ, eye, and tissue donation at organdonor.gov. That's organdonor.gov. This message brought to you by HHS's Health Resources and Services Administration, HRSA. And for more traffic information, just log on to sigalert.com. I'm Jason Lee with your Philadelphia area traffic.
The hottest place to hang out this summer is the Dell Music Center. The lineup is lit. Thursday, August 5th, Tank, SWV, and Drew Hill. Then on August 12th, Gregory Porter, Stokely, and Leela James. Then on Thursday, August 19th, Fresh Off versus the Isley Brothers. Performing all their greatest hits with Kelly Price and Carol Riddick. Get your tickets at the Dell box office and Ticketmaster.com. This is going to be an incredible season with Tank, SWV, Drew Hill, Gregory Porter, Stokely, Leela James, Carol Riddick, Kelly Price, and the Isley Brothers. For more information, log on to thedellmusiccenter.com.
WURD Founders Day. Don't miss our annual Founders Day live broadcast and celebration, Thursday, August 26th, honoring the life and legacy of our founder, Walter P. Lomax Jr., MD, featuring a very special broadcast of a ceremonial street naming for Dr. Lomax from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. at 1800 Wharton Street, the site of his first medical center.
Hosted by Charles Ellison.
The day will also include a series of virtual panels and conversations exploring health, wealth, and independent media. Start or renew your Forward membership on Founders Day at the special discounted rate of just $80. For more information about WURD Founders Day, visit wordradio.com. WURD Radio Founders Day is brought to you by Pico, Keystone First, Bank of America, Ready Set Philly, Comcast, Brown's Family ShopRite, Temple University, and Councilmember Kenyatta Johnson, 2nd District.
Are you looking to hire diverse talent? WURD has got you covered. We just launched a brand new job portal to help connect you with diverse talent in Philadelphia and beyond. If you would like to have your jobs featured on our job portal, give us a call at 215-425-7875 or send us an email at sales@wordradio.com. Check out the job portal today on our livelihood website at wordworks.com. That's WURDworks.com and click jobs.
Want the latest in WURD swag?
Check out the shop tab on wordradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on wordradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black.
Talk media.
WURD
TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at ForWord. WURD TV. Black. Talk media.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back in. It's Evening Words right here on 96.1 FM WURD. Hit us up on the app, Android or Apple. You can go to either app store and search WURD Radio, and up comes, that's right, us. You push a button, you listen to WURD. It's real simple. My next guest on the line comes to us from One Active Peace Yoga. His name is Reggie Hubbard, and he is joining us right now. Reggie, welcome to the program, sir.
Blessings. How are y'all? Love and grace. What's good?
I am doing well. I'm doing very well. This is our last show of the week, so I wanted to end on definitely. Thank you. I just wanted to end on some definitely not end. It's not like the show's over after this, but I certainly wanted people to kind of go out on a pleasant and good note, certainly for the week, and to keep some of those things in mind. Reggie, there's a lot going on right now. We'll talk about this actually a little bit later in the show as well, but lots of issues related to violence. Obviously, coronavirus is shifting the landscape right from underneath us, and many times as to like what life is like right now. It's causing us to constantly go through changes, which I'm sure invites in a lot of stress. A lot of stress for people. Now, I mentioned your organization is Active Peace Yoga. Tell us a little bit about what you have done, or like what you do there, what your role is there, if you will, and how all this stuff got started and your interest in that got started.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So number one, I'm happy to be here to talk about like health and wellness in general, but especially to Black and brown people, right? You know, as I shared with you before, like the mainstream aesthetic in yoga is mostly female and mostly non-hued, but like the progenitors of this wisdom were Black and brown people. So like the progenitors of these techniques were Black and brown people. And so I'm delighted to be talking to Black and brown people as a Black and brown practitioner in these times of high stress, because in some ways I view it as a bit of karmic reclamation of things that have been taken from us in order to reassert. It's not even supremacy. You know, there's enough for everybody, but it's a chance to reimagine the practices to their roots as opposed to their current things. So happy to be here. Active Peace Yoga is it's a mission, right? It's my mission. It's my ministry. I am the most incidental yoga teacher you've ever met. I started practicing yoga 6.5 years ago to not call my boss a B. Real talk. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't like I'm on the path of enlightenment. I was like, yo, if this MF says one more thing to me, she's gonna catch my Baltimore side. So I'm from just south of Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
And like we keep it real down there for better or for worse. And so like I would be in staff meetings and she would be like, I don't know why we hired you. And I'm like, yo, I'm a Black dude. Like I did not pledge Pi Phi. Like, why are you doing this to me? It's like I'm hazing a sorority. This is crazy.
Right.
I was like, what can I do to not let my inner Baltimore come out and tell you about yourself? And so I had just started practicing the physical practice of yoga probably about 2 months beforehand. And I was like, yo, let me give this a shot, right? So like I started going to sunrise and sunset yoga, asana, like the physical practice. And when they fired me 10 months later via text message, you heard that correctly, when they fired me 10 months later via text message, I went there like, Reggie, we should have an exit interview. I was like, y'all know good and hell well. An exit interview is probably not to either of our liking. I was like, but I do want to thank you. They're like, for what? I was like, I want to thank you for how poorly you treated me because you gave me the wisdom to deal with adversity with grace. So ashe. And then I called my mom and aunt afterwards. I'm like, this yoga stuff is ridiculous, yo. Like, I just thanked someone for firing me. What is happening?
Like, what world is this?
Right. Like Captain Curse Out just blessed someone for firing him via text message.
Right.
Like, whoa. Like, what is happening? So it was then that I knew that I was onto something new. I mean, we were joking on pre-production where I am planning on teaching, and when I started practicing aggressively, people were like, you're going to be a great teacher someday. And I'm like, yo, like I said, I'm just trying not to curse this lady out. Like, I don't know this teaching thing. What are you talking about, right? So anyway, very long story short, that is how I got into the path, right? And so started using yoga and meditation as key tools in my political work. So I was one of Bernie Sanders' executive producers in 2015 and 2016. So the whole, like, I'm OG Bernie Sanders, like on the presidential tip. So like the newcomers, welcome. We helped build.
You've been in the game. You've been in the game.
Right. You know what Biggie say? I've been in the game for years. Made me an animal. There's rules to this.
Right.
Like I wrote me a manual, right? So like I wrote the manual in Bernie 2015 and 2016, and that's kind of how yoga and meditation became solidified. Because as you might imagine, that was like a meteoric ascension from who are these guys to, oh my God, these cats might win, right? And so like I was in that entire situation. I was asked to produce Bernie Sanders' concession in Philly at Wells Fargo Center.
Okay.
So like the whole, like I was the executive producer for that. Black dude in the middle of the Democratic establishment cauldron. How did I keep my peace?
Right.
Right.
That was it.
Right. Yoga and meditation. Right. So like when I was like, oh my goodness, like why am I doing this? It was like the ancestors like, yeah, so you ain't know, but like you're here peaceful for this reason. So anyway, very, very, very long story short, I was living in Colorado at the time. When Trump won / Secretary Clinton lost, I was like, I can't be Black in Colorado. I need to take my Black behind back home. Right?
Okay.
Y'all a little too like friendly here. Like I don't trust your friendliness. Like you like me because Obama's president. Like when Trump's president,
what's happening now that he's out? Yeah.
Now that Obama's out, I don't really know if and I went to Yale undergrad, so I was like, I know all shades of white shade. right? So like I was just like, I can't be black here. I'm gonna go be black in Maryland and DC and just get back to my roots. So joined the I started working for Move On in 2017, and basically I was senior level producer for Bernie Sanders, but joined Move On at a lower level, for lack of better terminology. Mm-hmm. And they were basically like, they basically treated me like the help. And again, like that fire came up, and I was like, how do I keep from cursing these cats out? Oh, right. So I took my 200-hour yoga teacher training at the beginning of 2018. And by the end of 2018, we flipped the house, right? And I was intimately involved in a lot of that political strategy and those sorts of things. And I took my 500-hour yoga teacher training at the beginning of 2019, most famously when Rashida Tlaib said, we're going to impeach the MF. Like, that was my party. Like, I gave birth to that moment. That moment came out of my budget, right? So, like,
well, thank you for that. We did need that, actually. In many ways, we actually kind of needed that moment from her.
Right. So that came out of my budget. And then at the end of 2019, not only did I receive my 500-hour certification, but I was one of the intimate strategists of the impeachment movement, from impeach the MF to actually happening.
It actually happening.
Right. And I was in the middle of all that. So again, like, the ancestors, like, yo, see, like, this is why we put you in all these situations. So how did I become a teacher? I became a teacher because when the pandemic hit in March of 2019 or 2020, Keaton, I responded like this.
You were unfazed.
Right, and I'm joking. You remember that Friday when everyone across Earth bought all the toilet paper?
Yeah.
Like, I went in on Saturday, and I'm joking with, like, people in the store. I'm like, yo, why are people buying all the toilet paper for a respiratory ailment? This don't make no sense. You know what I'm saying? So then I was like, okay, how am I so peaceful? Oh, got it.
That's right.
Got it. So active peace was born of that moment where I was like, the world is totally shape-shifting. I've got a level of peace and mental clarity that not very many people have at this moment. So it's incumbent upon me as a servant, as a teacher, to share this peace. So that's how active peace came into existence.
Brilliant cause here, and a brilliant start to this, too. It leads me right into the first thing that I wanted to ask you, because this pandemic definitely has disrupted routines, what people would describe as routines. Instead of buying toilet paper, let's say, once every 2 weeks in bulk, they're now buying toilet paper every other day. And on their way out, they're grabbing things like rubbing alcohol. They don't even know what to do with these things, right? Like I say all that to say that the pandemic has certainly disrupted many of our routines. The idea of getting up in the morning at a certain time, making sure that your kids are going to school if you're a parent, making sure that you are going to work at whatever place that you work at if you are an adult. So there's a lot of things that we built into patterns COVID has disrupted, but that also could cause, even though I agree that we should probably break free of a few of those routines, it's caused stress whenever we have to change up and things like that. And so I'll ask, from your perspective, obviously this is how this was born, so I'd assume that you'd support this idea, but do you find, like, now that we're still in the pandemic, that now's a good time to start re-adopting some new routines and some new habits, of which yoga, of course, could be one?
Yeah, and so I love the way that you frame that, because it could be said, especially from a spiritual or from a Buddhist or yogic perspective, that disruption is the catalyst for your transformation, right?
Cool.
Right. So, like, disruption, especially from a psycho-spiritual sense, can be the thing that's introduced in order for you to stop holding so tightly on the things that never served you in the first place, right? So, like, the reason that most people had routines is because that's what you were always doing. People rarely think whether or not that routine was beneficial to them.
Come on now.
Right. And so, like, that disruption, or the disruption of the pandemic, for me, essentially put, like, a spiritual foot in my backside, like right in the middle of my low back, right on the top of my behind, and pushed me out and made me a teacher. In fact, one of my teachers totally called me out. Like, the last major event that I went to with like 200 people was a training at the Himalayan Institute in Honesdale, so not that far from Philly. And my teacher was like, yo, like, some people need to train less and teach more, Reggie. And so, again, my Baltimore came out and was like, nigga, like, what? Like, how you gonna call me? But then I was just like, okay, word, all right. And then 2 weeks later, when the pandemic hit, that was the disruption. That was the wrinkle in time that allowed me, number one, to see what everyone was talking about, and number two, the disruption of the pandemic, then the concomitant events of like Brother Floyd and you name it, Sister Taylor, Brother Arbery, like all of these things allowed the conditions for people to want to hear a black man talk yogically, right?
Very
so all
critical.
of this disruption created an avenue for me, well-adjusted, politically connected, like philosophically grounded black dude to come in. And I said this to one of my homies. I was like, yo, I know how white culture works. Like, y'all woke now, y'all gonna be sleeping about 13 months. So like, while y'all are woke, like I'm gonna come in and like run game. I'm gonna just come in and just take all
rack
of it.
Rack up.
Yeah, and become so established that by the time you change your mind, like Black Hippie is here, Active Peace is here. So use that disruption as a means of creating new patterns. So for everyone, I would say rather than holding on to something that's never coming back, see what now exists that you can build upon as a foundation for new things.
Most certainly. We're speaking with Reggie Hubbard of Active Peace Yoga. We got to get to a quick break right here, Reggie. But on the other side, I do want to talk. I want to dive into the yoga portion of this, some of the ways that folks can get involved. And I have a few questions as well about, different demographic groups of people. You mentioned it at the top. But if let's say that you're not, white and female, what does the practice of yoga have to offer? Let's talk about that on the other side of this break. And you can get your questions and your comments in. Make sure remember, of course, we're on YouTube, youtube.com/onWURD, facebook.com/4WURD. You can get your commentary in there as well. We'll be right back with more evening words right after this.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good afternoon. Watch for an accident on the Blue Route northbound at Route 1. It's off to the side. Delays go back to Media Swampmore. 476 southbound is backing up as well. McDade Boulevard to 95. On 95, broken down truck southbound at the Commodore Barry Bridge has the center lane blocked. We've got delays back to Ridley Park. Delays on 95 northbound, Columbus Boulevard out to Bridge Street. Schuylkill eastbound, that's heavy. Blue Route to Belmont and Montgomery Drive to the Vine. Westbound backs up Bear Avenue all the way to Montgomery Drive. The Vine heavy eastbound 76 to 95. In Jersey, delays 55 northbound from Deptford on out to the 42 freeway. Report brought to you by Staples Stores. Staples Connect has amazing prices for everything on your back-to-school list. The TI-84 Plus CE graphing calculator is just $99.95. That's a $55 savings in-store only. Offer ends 8/14, limit 2. Visit your local Staples store and be more than ready for school. Staples. And for more traffic information, log on to SigAlert.com. I'm Jason Lee with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Philadelphia Families PHL Pre-K, the city's free quality pre-K program, is growing and now enrolling. Over 160 pre-K centers are ready to serve children this year. There are no income limits for this free pre-K program. Children who are 3 or 4 years old as of September 1 can enroll. Call 844-PHL Pre-K or visit phlprek.org to learn more and find a quality pre-K center. That's 844-745-7735. This program is made possible by the Philadelphia Beverage Tax.
Hey WURD family, did you hear? It's official. The Colorectal Cancer Alliance just announced the new age for colon cancer screenings has been officially lowered to age 45 for everyone. If you are 45 or older, it's time to get screened. Go to wordradio.com and click on the Go to Know banner to register for your free at-home screening test. Did you know colon cancer is largely preventable with on-time screening? And there's a 90% survival rate when caught early. African Americans are 20% more likely to get colon cancer and about 40% more likely to die from it than most other groups. So for the next 3 months, you can go to wordradio.com and click on the Go to Know banner for your free at-home screening test. A screening navigator will contact you to ask a few questions and help you get screened. It's that simple. Again, just go to wordradio.com, click on the Go to Know banner, and fill out the form to request your free at-home screening test. Go to Know today.
Tune in to Denise Clay's Financial Literacy segment on Monday, August 30th at 3 p.m. sponsored by WSFS Bank. For more information on boosting your financial know-how, visit the Knowledge Center at WSFSbank.com. WSFS Bank, we stand for service.
The Black Words Book Club. WURD Radio's conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. The Black Words book for September is Race Against Time, The Politics of a Darkening America by Keith Boykin. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it, Tuesday, September 14th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention 4WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at 4WURD. WURD TV. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Hey, welcome back. It's Evening Words.
Yep.
Don't even say anything, Eric. It's Evening Words right here on WURD Radio. I'm your host, Keaton Nichols, filling in for the great Nick Taliaferro. And my guest on the line right now, he goes by Reggie Hubbard. Of course, we're talking about active peace yoga, and we'll tell you a little bit more information about how you can get connected in and a number of ways that you can get connected in with active peace yoga. And trust me, you're going to want to do that. We're talking with Reggie Hubbard, a certified yoga and meditation teacher and the founder, chief serving officer of Active Peace Yoga. Reggie, welcome back. And you talked about before the break, you talked about this concept that you were kind of like in the store, right? And people are losing their minds over this toilet paper thing. There's been, not in addition to the pandemic and the 4 years beforehand, there's actually been a lot of times where I've said to myself, like, are we as black people going to be okay? Like, there's like a lot of trauma and stress that's involved in this. You say that yoga has helped you through that. Talk about how that has happened. Like, what has it exactly done for you? Because I know there's people out there listening right now that have never done yoga, and they're not exactly young people, let's say, right. And they've never done yoga before, maybe because they said to themselves, I just don't get it, or I don't know what that exactly does for a person. Tell me your story. What exactly does it do for you in terms of either being a stress reliever or a routine or something to wake you up? What does it do?
Yeah, so I appreciate the question. So essentially, like, the way I approach the practice, yoga, and it says this in the Yoga Sutras, like, yoga is meant to calm the fluctuations of the mind. So, or in regular parlance, it's meant to chill the mind down so you can be peaceful in mind, body, and spirit to live your life to the best of your ability. Like, it's not about tight pants. It's not about, like, love and light. It's not about, like platitudes that have nothing to do with, like, relieving stress in your life. So for me, like I said, I started practicing aggressively to navigate a toxic work situation. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening is that, like, it calmed my mind so pronouncedly, or it made such a pronounced impact on my mental state that I was almost impervious to external circumstance, right? And so, again, like, as middle-aged black dude, talking about, pandemic, impeachment, right? You know, like, so to be that, and it's not like YOLO, whatever. Like, it's just, I'm engaged. I'm very engaged, but I'm not emotionally attached to the outcome. So fully present in terms of sensory awareness, but detached from the stress. In fact, I've been able to use stress as energy to catalyze my activities, as opposed to have stress be a diminishing return.
Wow. And that's an energy sort of shift that I think a lot of us really desire, right? Like, the stresses are draining. That's the number one thing. If we could just handle all of our stresses, the stuff just came out and it was just a matter of time of just dealing with one thing or another, that's one thing, right? But the collective stress certainly makes us want to maybe aim for different targets and different objectives within that to achieve that, that peace, if you will. And also finding and identifying what peace is. Like, I know it sounds kind of crazy, and but I feel like there are a lot of folks still out there that don't even know what their inner peace is, like what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like. And so when you tell somebody, hey man, you need to be peaceful or peace, whatever, they're like, huh? I am. I know, right? I'm calm.
I'm peaceful, son. What?
Like, people get into that. And so I think if they know where their peace home is, then they can go back home, if you will, and hit the reset and all that other stuff.
I'll talk about that briefly. So quickly, like, to me, peace is as simple as finding a deep breath regardless of the circumstance.
Okay.
Right? So you're having a good day, take a deep breath. Things are kind of crappy, take a deep breath. Right? Because what tends to happen in all circumstances is that you get out of the body and get into the mind. You get into the mind, you shrink up, the breath shortens, and those sorts of things. But the breath is the thing that animates the apparatus. And yoga can also be quite simply stated as a constant relationship with the breath, so that you never lose awareness of it regardless of the circumstance. So the deeper the breath, and if you can keep that connection in all circumstances, like smooth and clean consistently, that's also yoga. It's not just the physical piece. Like, it's the relationship with the breath and having that deep breath in all circumstances. So that can come from meditative experience, that can come from physical experience, and it can come from taking a walk in nature or listening to good beats.
That's interesting you mentioned that, because one of the questions that I have for you that I think is absolutely critical, and if you don't listen to anything else that was heard in this interview, listen to this next section, because I want to know about how, if I'm a person out there who has a minor interest or maybe no interest as of this moment, but I'm hearing this right now and I'm saying, all right, I'm willing to give it a shot, right? Like, I'm willing to give this a chance, not just the practice, like you said, but the whole thing. I'm willing to give everything, kind of a chance. How would you suggest, or what's a good way to get people kind of started off on this journey? What's a good way to kind of enter or foray in so that they get something that's beneficial from it as well at the beginning?
Yeah, so you could do, there are many ways, but I taught this weekend a group of young Black and brown aspiring teachers across the world, and someone asked me a similar question, and they're like, well, I don't really know, blah, blah, blah. Like, listen, if you can find 90 seconds at the top, middle, and bottom of your day where you find a tall spine, close your eyes, breathe in through the nose, and exhale out the nose, and then see what happens on the back end of that. 90 seconds times 3, so 270 seconds. Like, you can't find 270 seconds out of 1,440 minutes to take a deep breath and close your eyes. Like, if you do that and notice the effect on your mind. I'll give you one quick example. I teach IATSE, so the International Association of Theatrical Stagehands. So I teach basic yoga and meditation to them. And yesterday, it's OSHA safety training week for them. And so I taught 35 minutes of basic stretches. An electrician brother, burly dude, basically was like, yo, what you offered was so profound. I'm crying with relief.
Yes.
Like, I feel such relief and release in my mind and body that I have tears.
Wow.
And all we did was hand warming, shoulder shrugs, maybe side bends, super simple stuff. But it was a connection, like I said, between mind, body, and breath over 15 minutes that allows your resting stress level to go down. And when your resting stress level goes down, you realize, oh my God, first of all, I've got this much space.
Right.
And just
it's a part of it, realizing what you've been missing out on. Geez.
I have a neck.
Oh, there it is.
Right. So you can totally freak out. So it's basically that simple. So if you hear nothing else, you can meditate for 90 seconds. And meditation doesn't have to be I meditate for sometimes 30, 45 minutes, but that's just where I'm at in my practice. 90 seconds, tall spine, deep breath as deep as you can. Exhale out the nose or the mouth, depending what you need in order to relieve your stress. Notice what that does for you. And if you feel even a little bit better, maybe that 90 seconds becomes a full 2 minutes.
There you go.
All right? Yeah, so start small, and then you'll be amazed at what happens to you. And the other thing I'll say is that, I teach all the time. So, and I love teaching people who've never tried this before. So skeptics, I'm your teacher because I was you. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna be no dang on teacher. I ain't no white woman. Why? I was old angry Black dude. I was Uncle Ruckus. Right? But I ain't doing that. Blah blah blah. But look at me now.
Let me ask you this too, because you mentioned that I've done yoga much more than twice, but I've been to 2 yoga retreats. Specific day-long type of things, activities, etc. I will do the story backwards. I will Tarantino it. The ending says that I had a great time. Both times super fulfilling. Recharge is, I know, a word that oftentimes is associated with these kind of things. That is not a joke. I was fully recharged at the end of that. I felt great. We had shared stories and all this other stuff. Now, here was I don't even want to call this an issue, but here was something that I immediately noticed, right?
Yeah.
I was the only guy at one of them. I was the only guy there, and I was one of maybe 3 guys at the other one, in a group of probably about 35 to 40 people in general. Now, I know there's, a lot of stigmas that go along racial lines too. Like sometimes people assume that this is like a white woman's practice, if you will. Talk about 2 things, where a lot of this, where these practices come from, which is, by the way, spoiler alert, people, not white people, but talk about where they come, a little bit about where they come from, and also how you go as a Black man. How do you make that environment of yoga more welcoming for, like, let's say, other Black men who maybe don't see themselves in these other groups of yoga workshops or whatever else like that, that may be very heavily female and or white?
Right. No, I appreciate the question. So first of all, like, yogic practice is derivative from Kemet in Egypt in India. Last time I checked, people in Kemet, South Sudan are Black, right? Yes. People from India are Black in American parlance, brown in other parlance. So these practices are derivative of Black and brown culture, right? And so, like, I'm not quite sure how it has shifted into being, like, specifically under the purview of, like, white women, but, like, I, for one, am rooted in the fact that this is a Black and brown practice. Buddha was Indian, right? Like all of these things, like they're not white, and at a certain level, they're for everyone. But the roots of them are Black and brown. So that's number one. Number 2 is that, like, I notice what the practice has done for me, and I teach to that. So I'm part of a syndicate called Black Boys Om, which is over 200 Black male teachers all over the world, so Black male certified yoga teachers. And so we dedicate ourselves to not only serving one another, but also creating opportunities to dispel myths about what yoga looks like. Most recently, I taught in DC public schools, and Keaton, you want to talk about, like, some trippy stuff. So we taught, like, it was called trap yoga, right? So we used trap music to get the kids' attention, and then took them through some of the sequences. Okay. So in 3 weeks, we went from, I don't do this, like, blah, 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 to the end, like, some of the more skeptical kids were being like, yo, Brother Reggie, what's next? Right? So in 3 weeks, like, I was able to, like, get in and allow them to have a different sensory experience in their body. Maybe they've never breathed that deep before. Maybe you've never felt that level of peace in your mind. So that is what we do. And so in terms of the follow-on to your question, like, I, as embodied Black male teacher, I'm going to be, over the next couple of months, like, I'm going to be headlining 2 yoga festivals, and I'm going to be, like, a co-MC of another, like, major headlining. So me, Black dude, Kango, Afro, out, prayer beads, I'm about as Black as it gets, to show everyone that this is for all of us. And, I think of it also like the Underground Railroad. Like, get in on this, yo, follow me. I want to be like the Harriet Tubman, from ignorance into the light of well-being for all Black and brown people.
Yes. Absolutely, man. I love that energy, and I'm actually pretty excited. Like, you kind of got me pumped up now, about this. It's again a concept that every single time that I've done yoga, probably like 60% of the time I had to be coerced into doing it. I was one of those people, I was like, no, I'm not doing this, man. I don't even have a yoga mat. My roommate ended up getting me a yoga mat one year for Christmas, and I had no excuse after that. I'm so glad that I did. And so anytime that we have an opportunity to talk about yoga, especially in this kind of light where we can introduce some people to the practice and to the concept, not just of the physical, I got a mat and I can do different stuff in front of this, but really the entire practice of it. And it really is, something that you work your way into and that you spend time in. And folks can actually engage with you online through these activities right now. Corona's crazy. We know that. We want to keep people safe. But so there are definitely ways of reaching out and connecting with you online for these sessions as well. Are they free?
So it's donation based, which is another thing too. Like, so like my teaching practice, I do have corporate clients or whatever, but my teaching practice online is mostly based on the Buddhist principle of dana. So like the teachings have been so generous to me that I don't want you to trip about money. Like, if you got money and want to offer money, please do. But I would rather you come, offer your generous attention and generous spirit, and get enlightened, and then have it change your life, rather than be like, yo, I ain't got no money, or blah, 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 blah. So have an open mind. Come holler at your boys. So it's activepeaceyoga.com or Reggie Global or Active Peace Yoga on Instagram. So, like, I'm pretty prolific on those spaces. And so it's donation-based. Come, holler, and, like, and we'll have a good time.
Yeah, most definitely. ActivePeaceYoga.com. We'll see if we can get that into Eric or some of our online spaces as well, just so that's pinned up there and folks have that. ActivePeaceYoga.com. Folks, if you're unsure, you don't really know where to start, you're not really sure if this is even for you, check out the website. Give Reggie a holler. Check out one of the sessions. You got one happening tonight, right?
I do. 9 o'clock, meditation. My theme for this week is it's okay not to be okay. So that's the other thing, too.
There we go.
Like, I talk about the realist. You know what I mean? Yeah. So coronavirus has upended everything, and people are all sorts. So how can you find a bit of peace when everything is upside down? That's what we're trying to do. Not be like, oh, everything's awesome. No. Things are kind of crappy right now.
Yeah,
how can I find deep breath and community to help us get through this together, as opposed to feeling like I'm by myself?
Can't think of a better time to start right now. Check it out, 9 o'clock tonight, activepeaceyoga.com. We've been speaking once again with Reggie Hubbard, of course, who is the founder and chief serving officer of Active Peace Yoga. Check out activepeaceyoga.com. And Reggie, we will hopefully be speaking with you again real soon. We can maybe do something a little bit more regular.
Always down to talk, especially like for like pro-Black health, politics, awareness. Holler at me. I'm down for it.
Sounds like an awesome conversation is coming up as well. So, Reggie, we'll talk to you again next time. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's get to a quick commercial break. When we come back here on WURD, we'll continue the conversation. Philadelphia set to hand out some money to combat community violence. Is it going to make a difference? Plus, we'll talk about the new look, the new take on a very popular comic book character that I'm sure you all are aware of. Want to get your all's 2 cents on that. And don't forget, tonight after the game, it's Eagles and Steelers. Got Jovan Alford in the stew coming up at 6:45 to preview the game and preview the Eagles preseason. It's going to be your last look at a preseason take here before things get started here in a couple of weeks. So don't go anywhere. It's Evening Words right here on WURD Radio. I'm Keaton Nichols, and we'll be right back after this.
Whatever the world brings, we're always moving forward. Reinventing business, reimagining home, and re-emphasizing community. At PECO, we're redefining support, finding new ways to provide financial assistance, supporting opportunities for good jobs, and uplifting our communities. We're by your side through it all, because whatever the future holds, you're ready to take it on, and we're ready to power it. Find the support you need at PECO.com.
More than joint replacement, it's total joint care. Einstein Orthopedics offers minimally invasive, same-day procedures like anterior hip replacement and knee replacement surgery. Our board-certified surgeons and dedicated team will give you personalized care every step of the way. From your first appointment to surgery to post-procedure follow-up care, Einstein Orthopedics offers everything you need to get moving again. Visit einstein.edu/totaljoint to learn more.
Build skills needed for employment through the Philadelphia Skills Forward Initiative, a free upskilling program for workers displaced by the pandemic, those whose jobs are at risk for automation, and Black and brown workers. Complete courses focused on digital literacy, career management, and professional skills for a successful career. Get started today at chamberphl.com.
As a community service, WURD Radio and the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium wants to keep you informed about where you can get barrier-free COVID-19 testing and vaccination this week. Deliverance Evangelistic Church, 2001 West Lehigh Avenue, Tuesday, August 10th and Thursday, August 12th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturday, August 14th from 12 noon till 4 p.m. Stay informed and stay well with WURD Radio.
96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Be there this Friday at the Summer Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour and stand with WURD Radio to amplify voices of the Black community as a digital 4WURD member for as low as $5 per month. And receive a free gift for signing up. See you on Friday and join Tiffany Bacon, 10 a.m. till noon at the Martin Luther King Recreation Center, 2101 Cecil B. Moore Avenue. Or visit WURDradio.com. Start or renew your 4WURD membership today. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Streaming live on WURDradio.com, the WURD Radio app, or watch live on WURD TV via Facebook and YouTube. WURD Radio, independent Black media.
WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at 4WURD. WURD TV. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent Black media.
We are back right here on WURD. It's Evening Words, Progressive Talk Media. You already know what it is, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com. Check us out on the app and streaming online, Facebook.com/4WURD, YouTube.com/onWURD. Appreciate all the folks for commenting in. Oh, I just saw that we got some comments on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you check in. Viola Gray comments in and said, already looked him up. Yes, yoga. Yes, Viola. Yoga is very exciting. I'm so glad that Reggie took the time to have that conversation. A very important conversation, the way that I look at it, most especially. I want to know who my guys are out there who also do yoga on a regular basis. It's nothing. It's not like, you know, super special thing. I don't want to like call anyone out or anything. It's just, I want to know who else is in the community. Like, I started doing yoga a couple of years ago. I have not regretted it, Eric. Not a single time. I've had actually a really great time. So if folks want to find out more, activepeaceyoga.com, activepeaceyoga.com. You can also check out their brand elsewhere, Facebook and Instagram, especially Active Peace Yoga. It might be on Twitter as well. You know how I'm bad with Twitter. I apologize. But anyway, appreciate Reggie for coming in and talking with us about yoga. You could be next. 215-634-8065. Let me get back to the YouTube. YouTube is hot. YouTube is hot these days. So far, we've talked a little bit about what, you know, this report. Of course, it's not a report. It's the census, right? The results of the census tell us that in America today, in 2021, we are a lot less white than we were 20 years ago, 200 years ago. Your choice. We are a less white nation. The United States is. Just under 58% of the country is now considered or identifies as white, while the rest of that, which I guess is 42%, that's the remaining percentage, I think that's how we're doing this, have either not identified as anything or are considering themselves to be a part of minority groups. Kind of an uncomfortable term, but we're going with it for now. So tell me what you think. We did have some commentary in on the YouTube for that as well. White people seem to be losing 1% a year, says Debitron. I believe they are already a minority because a lot of Asians and some Latinos are under the title of white on immigration and census data. That is very much so true. And also other considerations, other parts of America. I think there's probably a lot of people who don't really like care to make it a big deal. Like, there are people who are probably white enough or passing enough, if you will, that maybe who belong to other communities, maybe they're Latina or maybe they're Asians, that kind of get treated pretty much like whites anyway. And so maybe race doesn't become such, you know, an important thing that they say to themselves, I specifically want to identify as this thing. Identifying as a particular race in this country also requires a particular, you know, amount of work in a sense. Like you gotta put in some work to identify who you are, what kind of things you appreciate. I mean, there's a lot there, right? So there's some people that probably just don't want to deal with it at all and are just like, screw it, you know, like whatever. I'm white, whatever. Yeah, you want to label me as white? Sure. So, I don't know. Might want to check that out. Malcolm White says, might want to check this out, rather. Malcolm White says there's a movie called White Man's Burden. Are you familiar with this, Eric? This movie called White Man's Burden?
No, what?
Malcolm says it's a thing. I know Malcolm's out there still listening. Tell us more about this if you can. I don't necessarily have the time and space to Google it right now, but if you could give us a synopsis, Malcolm, that'd be great. He says it's with Harry Belafonte and John Travolta. Those are two actors from a little bit different eras coming together. Harry Belafonte and John Travolta that touched on what if the tables were turned. I assume he was talking about like what if there were more, people of color in the world or in the country than there are whites. I got to check that out. I've never seen it. Never heard of that, as a matter of fact. And there's also there's a stage production. Oh man. And my brain just totally went blank.
While you're thinking about that, White Man's Burden is a 1995 American drama film about racism set in an alternative America. Say that 3 times fast.
In an alternative America,
where the social and economic positions of black people and white people are reversed. The film was written and directed by Desmond Nakano.
Desmond Nakano?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not who I was thinking of.
So it's
I'm scrolling back through my Instagram right now. I promise people I am still working. I am not distracted. I'm trying to find the name of this play. I went to a play when I was still back at Temple University, and the Temple, the folks at the Temple Theater did a really great job of putting it on. And now I can't find it. What the name of it is? It was called if the day things stood still or something. This is really going to frustrate me if I don't find this, and it doesn't look like I am. Okay, but there's a stage production that plays on this idea. It's the same kind of idea. It's like, what if you know what it was? It was like, what if black people were just disappeared one day? Like they just left the earth, if you will. Thank you for sending that, Eric. I appreciate it. This is really going to bother me. I have to find this now. I'm deep enough in my Instagram. I can't come up with it. It's frustrating me.
You talking
but
about
anyway, it's a stage production, like I said. I'll come up with the name of it later because I can't seem to find it right now in my files. But just saying, 215-634-8065. Before we get into the rest of the news, I did want to talk about one more, kind of more serious story, if you will, before we get into the back end. And that is that Philadelphia is set to hand out about $22 million to community groups combating violence. We found out earlier this week. The grants range basically from $100,000 to $1 million. It's the second stage of the district attorney's office basically sort of overseeing this huge release of money. And basically what the city is saying is that, look, there's so much violence going on in the city right now that we want to dedicate and then quickly distribute these funds to community groups that are tasked with helping to quell the violence. We can go a little bit deeper into this on a future show when we can, kind of sit down with somebody who knows the numbers behind this kind of stuff too and can speak to exactly where this money goes. But it is always a question, man. I wanted to talk about it today before we got to the weekend because pretty soon the applications in about a week are going to close. A week tomorrow are going to close for these grants. And I do wonder, $22 million is a lot of money, but I do wonder if access to programs like this might sort of exist in kind of a bit of a funnel or in a bit of a tunnel, and that a lot of the people that are helping quell violence in the community from a real perspective might not have access to this money. Let me know what you think in the comment section, or hit us up 215-634-8065 or toll free 1-866-361-0900. And whoever called in, does Brother Joe want in on the line, or did he just leave that message for us?
He said give him a shout out, so shout him out. But I'm also on the line with the sister who was saying it's the day the earth stood still.
The day. I was like, I feel like that's so close.
Right.
So the play is called The Day the Earth Stood Still, right? We're gonna verify that.
Say that one more time.
In a couple of minutes. Is it The Day the Earth Stood Still? The
Yes.
name of the play?
Yes.
The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Shout out to Miss Josetta for getting me to Google that.
Thank
the Day
you.
the Earth Stood Still. Shout out to Miss Josetta.
To my folks out there, I knew you would have my back. But this is a most interesting play. Obviously, some people out there have already seen it. But if you have a chance to see it, it's called The Day the Earth Stood Still. I don't know what period of time specifically it is, but it's like early 1900s, earlier, at least 1900s. I would say maybe 20 something, 28, 25, 32 range. Am I a little bit too early?
Too early.
Okay, maybe 1958.
A little warmer. You jump past it. There's Superman.
1947.
Okay, you jump back a little. 1951.
51. Okay. All right.
So we're looking at, this is the movie you're talking about?
I've never seen the movie, to be honest with you.
Because
I've only seen the
at
live
the
play.
movie.
There probably is a movie out there, though.
Yeah, budget was like $995,000, done by Fox, aka Farewell to the Master and Journey to the World.
Okay.
This is
I guess I got to check out a new iteration.
Fiction film from the 20th Century Fox. So
the concept is that I'll ruin it for you guys. The concept is basically that black people just disappear from the earth one day, just like overnight. And it's obviously the 1950s. So there's a lot of white people who are like, wait, like what's going on? Like, why isn't somebody serving me? Like, why isn't, you know what I mean? Like, why isn't somebody...
Okay, that might not be it, because this one is set in the Cold War during the early stages of the nuclear arms race. The film storyline involves a humanoid alien visitor who comes to Earth, accompanied by a powerful robot. And yeah, that's not it.
The Day the Earth Stood Still. It's a stage production. Like I said, it might have been converted into a movie somewhere, but be on the lookout for it. Black people disappear. White people have no idea what to do. It's great. It's fantastic. Go see it. Anyway, 215-634-8065. Shout out to my community out there. Always got my back. Camille commenting in on the YouTube. She asked if there are any classes in New York. Reggie, if you are still listening, you can let us know about that in terms of whether or not you have any plans of going up 95, so to speak, and stopping through Philadelphia, New York, on your way or on your travels on the East Coast. Let us know. Camille, I did find out, of course, that you can go to activepeaceyoga.com and you can sign up 1, 2, 3, 4 free. Okay. Activepeaceyoga.com. You go to click the drop down menu and click schedule. You'll see all the upcoming sessions that Reggie has coming up. They're free. You can tune into them online. Tonight's starts at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. So Camille, get on that if you can. And she also made a comment about Robin jumping up a little bit, but I did want to mention this now so that we can talk about this. Eric. Now,
still looking up this movie. Like, I've got another caller on here. We're trying to figure this out, man.
Oh, you guys are still you guys are sleuth.
Because that's not it. Like, yeah, we're trying to find this play,
man.
It's
definitely whatever the last thing with the alien. That's definitely not it.
That wasn't it
for sure. That's not it. You know what? Let me give you a few minutes. We'll start Robin Tim Drake, if you will, on the other side of the commercial. We'll give Eric a few minutes to sleuth over this.
I'm curious now.
If you know what the movie is, so we're talking. There's a stage production called "The Day the Earth Stood Still." It's about when black people basically just disappear from the earth, and white people have to figure out what to do without black people. There's a movie version of this. We're trying to figure out what the movie version of it is. Okay, so we'll save Robin for the other side of the conversation or other side of the break. If you have any answers on this, please help us out. Please, we are scrambling. But anyway, 215-634-8065. Let's go to a quick break, Eric, or what are we doing here?
I found the info, and we can go to break, and I can talk about it.
Yes, let's go to break, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. We'll be right back here on Evening Words, WURD Radio 96.1 FM, Black Talk Media. We'll be right back after this.
Hey WURD family, did you hear? It's official. The Colorectal Cancer Alliance just announced the new age for colon cancer screenings has been officially lowered to age 45 for everyone. If you are 45 or older, it's time to get screened. Go to WURDradio.com and click on the Go to Know banner to register for your free at-home screening test. Did you know colon cancer is largely preventable with on-time screening? And there's a 90% survival rate when caught early. African Americans are 20% more likely to get colon cancer and about 40% more likely to die from it than most other groups. So for the next 3 months, you can go to WURDradio.com and click on the Go to Know banner for your free at-home screening test. A screening navigator will contact you to ask a few questions and help you get screened. It's that simple. Again, just go to WURDradio.com, click on the Go to Know banner, and fill out the form to request your free at-home screening test. Go to Know today.
Enterprise Exterminators, located at 4943 Wayne Avenue, has been in business since 1976 and can eliminate whatever pest problems you have. Enterprise specializes in bed bugs, lanternflies, and termites. Call for your free termite inspection today. Do-it-yourself kits are available. Enterprise Exterminators, servicing Philadelphia, Delaware, and New Jersey. Call now, 215-849-7070. Ask us about the WURD and senior discounts.
Tune in this Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. for the Islam Today show, with a perspective on moral guidance and Islamic principles and values.
WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at ForWord. WURD TV. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back. It's Evening Words, 215-634-8065. This is a place where you can learn. And by you, I mean me.
And me.
And Eric. Eric hasn't done this much work since undergrad. but we have sleuthed. The word on the street is we have sleuthed the name of the movie adaptation of The Day the Earth Stood Still. Is that what we've gotten from this?
Is that what that is? Because I think I'm still just diving on the fact that
I don't even know what you found out. I just know you know something.
So shout out to the one sister who called. I did not get her name, but we dug up The Day of Absence, which was a play. The playwright of it was Douglas Turner Ward. And it's the play written by Ward, which premiered off Broadway in 1965.
Off Broadway.
Yes. Which I think, so this is right then.
The Day of Absence. That makes total sense.
So nothing's really saying what it was about, but it's kind of like, even the description on Wikipedia, what we say, The Day the World Stood Still.
Or something like that. Yeah, that might be something
The Day
else.
the Earth Stood Still. That's the one we're talking about, was with the Martian.
Oh, yeah.
So earlier we talked about, I think, which led to this whole was like,
oh my goodness,
was like White Man's Burden was the one that started this rabbit hole discussion. White Man's Burden.
I have all this material now that I got to read, Eric.
Yeah.
You realize how much of a burden this will be for me. Sorry, I had to sneak that in.
You did.
But anyway,
and then shout out to Stan for go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Do your thing.
No, shout out to Stan for Way in the Middle of the Air, which was another situation where like aliens offer black people the chance to leave the Earth, and white people are irate because we choose to leave. We choose to
Way in the middle of the air.
Way in the middle of the air.
Way in the middle. So I have so much stuff to catch up on.
By Ray Bradbury, because you like overheard the convo.
I did. Ray Bradbury is one of my favorite authors, white, black, or otherwise. Come to think of it, I don't know. Never mind. I was about to say, isn't he Indian? But that's George Orwell that I was thinking of. Anyway, Ray Bradbury, one of my favorite authors, of course, penned the book Fahrenheit 451. Do not watch the movie that's on HBO or whatever. I normally like what Michael B. Jordan does. I do not like that. But the book Fahrenheit 451, still solid as ever. It's one of those post-apocalyptic situations. So he also wrote this book, he wrote the Martian Chronicles, rather, which should be like a collection of stories, which I just read about on Wikipedia just now, and I'm totally into that. Like I want to read that now. I know that there's Steelers Eagles coming on after the show, but now I'm conflicted.
Yo, this summary is crazy of this book.
What are we looking at?
In June, this is Way Up in the Air. In June of 2003, a group of white men are sitting on the porch of a hardware store. News has come that all the Negroes of the American South have band together to immigrate to Mars. They have built their own rockets. The white men are shocked. The Negro walks by a stream of...
The white men are shocked.
The Negroes walk by in a stream of humanity on their way to the rocket. One of the men on the porch, Mr. TC, tries to stop one of them. Belter, who owes him $50, but yeah.
Okay, is that like a lot of money in the future, or what?
Well, it's 2003. We're just talking about a small amount right now.
Oh, 2003.
Belter, who owes him $50, but a crowd gathers and pays off the debt. Pays off the debt. Like, we're getting out of here, fam. Here's your $50. We're leaving.
Nah, man, we ain't leaving you behind for $50. We ain't gonna need this in the next planet here.
Yeah. He walks up, owes him $50. The crowd gathers and pays off the debt. Then TC's employee at the store, still he rides up to leave, but TC tries to make him stay because of his work contract.
Wait. Don't work too. No.
Sorry, this is way too much. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I want to read it.
I'm sorry.
I want to read it. I love post-apocalyptic books and ones that involve like black people getting out of Dodge because the Earth is just ratchet.
Could you imagine people getting together and paying somebody's debt just to roll out? Like, here, look, we're just leaving.
I mean, that's what I said. If you're about to roll out, you can have all my money. Like, what are you going to do with it on Mars? Give it to the Martians, or
start a new economy? But again, technically, paper economy is not our economy. That would just be opening up the same wounds that we had here on this Earth. I guess that would be kind of cool, though. Just to fly away. I've been working this grave shift. I ain't paid nothing.
I wish I could. All right, we're not talking about that. 215-634-8065 is our telephone number, or toll free 1-866-361-0900. Now we can talk about Robin, rather. And I teased this a little bit earlier that something was going to be different about a classic comic book character that a lot of people are familiar with. You're familiar with Robin, right? Like, I know you know who Robin is, Eric.
Intimately.
The Boy Wonder. The sidekick of Batman. Although I have oftentimes argued, not to get off on a separate, conversation about this, but I've oftentimes argued that Robin's story in the comics, as in Batman and Robin's story is big enough and, layered enough for it to be its own thing. Why don't we have any Robin standalone movies or TV series at this point?
Because the stories aren't that. Well,
I know there's a number of Robins. We're going to talk about one of the Robins tonight. We're going to talk about Tim Drake's Robin.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you that don't dive into it deep, there's more than one iteration, if you will, according to the comic books, of Robin, right? Like Batman, there's only one. For the most part, there's only one Batman, right? It's Bruce Wayne. It's always Bruce Wayne.
Don't go down that hole.
Batman Beyond and all that other stuff that comes later.
There were times where like all the other
Robins
took it up.
It'd be like one Batman.
Yeah,
but along the storyline of that one Batman, let's say there's like 4 different Robins, right? There's 4.
Yes.
1, 2, 3. 4,
so we go with Dick Grayson the first. Jason,
the one that was in the circus.
Yes,
his parents were killed.
Right.
Yes.
Jason Todd with him. Jason Todd was the second, and that was the one.
Jason Todd was the young kid who was like wild and crazy, right? Like,
yeah, he
took
Batman's hubcaps off, stole his tires, and got
pretty
picked
good.
up.
I mean, if you actually steal the tires off the Batmobile,
yeah, he didn't
even touch the Batmobile without being shocked.
Right. He like did something and like.
So that's impressive. Robin number 2. We have Damian Wayne, right?
Tim Drake is number 3.
Oh, Tim Drake is number 3.
Right, and then Damian Wayne is Robin number 4.
Right, which is, of course, Batman's son in some storylines. But anyway, we're talking about Robin number 3 here. Now, tell us what happened here, because I got this piece of news, and I was a little bit confused as to what was happening here, because the headline for this NBC article says, Robin explores his bisexuality in the new Batman comic. Tell us what's going on here, Eric.
So the story explores Tim Drake, who has been battling different identities. A lot of his Robins, or Batman's Robins, have kind of come back in one way, shape, or form in different scenarios. Sometimes they just come back and take on the mantle for a little bit. It's almost like when you leave your parents' house. I'm leaving. Come back. All right, I'll stay for a little bit. And then go, all right, I'm leaving again this time for real. And then...
Don't know anything about that, man.
Yeah, no, I know you don't. You just, But in this scenario, I think Robin... Tim Drake really has explored different roles. Like, he's taken on different names. Red Robin even like went by Drake, which is like, I think his superhero name was Drake at one point in time. So that's interesting. But a friend of his visits town, is another male, and it kind of sparks repressed feelings that he's had for this person when they come to visit, and they were on like a hangout kind of date-ish situation. The person got kidnapped, and he went and saved the person as Robin, but the person always knew he was Robin. And then the young man asks him out on an official date, and Tim agrees to go on this official date. And then a new issue for this, the follow-up, won't come out until like October.
So we got to figure out what happens afterward, but we can kind of already lean into this, at least the idea that he's exploring it within the comics. Now we should stop here at this point in the story to remind folks, again, these are comics that we are talking about. These are stories of made up characters that do not exist. Okay. But the reason why we talk about things like this in popular culture, of course, is because they then start to spark conversations about some of the things that we might see in real life. Now, there are two things here that I find interesting, Eric.
Yep.
One, I always find it interesting when there is a reimagining of either the origin story or the core story, as I like to call the story that kind of defines what that character is like, or maybe what that character does outside of kicking butt, right? Like all superheroes kick butt. You know, what is behind the butt kicking is kind of the interesting part, if you will. And I think DC does a better job than Marvel at this, but that's just my 2 cents. That's just me. Okay. That's just me. But anyway, the character behind, you know, the person kicking butt is really the interesting thing. So I do find it interesting when you have a character that's been known as one thing, if you will, for a long time, that is suddenly viewed at through a new lens, this new bisexual lens, if you will. Now, the thing is, people might be asking, well, what does that have to do with anything, right? Like Robin kicks butt. Like, who cares if he likes this or that, right? Or I guess in this case, he likes this and that. But the sort of discomfort that sort of comes from this conversation with the challenging of saying why is Robin bisexual in this comic is interesting to me, because no one ever challenged the idea that he might be straight before this. You know, no one ever said, hey man, I know Robin, you know, he chases women, he wants women all the time. Like, it was never a topic that was discussed anyway, right?
Well,
but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Eric. Robin has had love interests in the past, right? Or he's had, you know, some sort of interest.
You keep saying Robin when that's a plural situation. You
Tim
keep
Drake's
saying Robin.
There you go, Tim Drake's Robin.
That I didn't know. I think the only instance I knew about was his romantic relationship with Barbara Gordon in the Arkham game series. That's canon in that game series.
Yeah, within that series. And so there's different storylines that can, you know, happen within comics. Like, there's not one story of Batman and Robin. You know what I mean? Like, there's a number of iterations and things that have come out, comics and stories that have come out over the years. But like, we don't really challenge, you know, these notions of what a character's sexuality is. We just kind of assume that it is what it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so when an element like this comes into play where you're saying, and you know, there's another example like Batwoman, for example, a newer character, all things considered, in the DC canon, is a lesbian in this particular, in her iteration. That's what her character is. That's what her canon is, if you will. But her character was created like 10, 15 years ago, very recently. Whereas Robin, we've been seeing in the comic book since the 40s.
Yes.
In effect. You know, so I just think it's always interesting.
You even have to add the history that people were assuming. Like, I think one psychologist in the article that I shared, I don't know the name of the psychologist, was saying that Batman and Robin was just an ideology of like two homosexual men living in harmony or something like that, which has been debunked. But it's just the idea, because you know, which is not a problem either, even if it was like. Man.
I just think in general, like, when it comes to these things, we do have a rigid understanding as to what our, like, superheroes is always an interesting topic, because we try and see ourselves in superheroes as a people so hard. Like, we want to be
I want
to
be Iron Man.
We want to be
Superman.
Iron Man. Yeah. We want to be Spider-Man. You know, maybe we don't want stuff shooting out of our wrists, but like like what Spider-Man represents, in a sense, is kind of like it's like every superhero is like kind of like different iterations. American superheroes, at least, are like different iterations of positive qualities that America wishes that it was. In a sense, not to get like too deep into the superhero thing, but that's how I think it is. That's how I think we see ourselves in these characters. And so when you introduce something else, you know, something like this into the storyline that says, hey, can this superhero, can this awesome and, you know, sort of exaggerated almost version of good America, can that version of America also be something like gay or a woman or black or something that doesn't typically fall in the like white male superhero, you know, totem pole of setup? Like, is that possible? Can people feel good about that? And I think that's why there's a pushback. There's a discomfort that people have with saying that something feels good or something is good or something looks good, but it is also considered a part of a community that I don't find myself a part of, like the LGBTQ community. Oh, I don't identify with that. So what, I don't know if I could do, the future Robin stories or whatever else like that. They liked Robin before, but they don't like, again, Tim Drake's Robin. They liked Tim Drake's Robin before, but now they don't like Tim Drake's Robin because, now they're trying to put politics into, I can see that sort of coming into the situation. But I think that the authors, the creatives behind projects like this do it to challenge not to like, tick off the fanboys and the, what did you call them earlier? The people that are like the purists, right? I don't think that they're doing this to mess with the purists so much so as they're doing it to create a different expectation about what we think is awesome and amazing and great. That somebody can be awesome and amazing and great and also be, bisexual or gay or part of an otherwise minority community. That's what I see out of it.
Because that was that one that's the situation where like thinking about the Batwoman show, and Batwoman is not like which goes into the debate of like what they focused on in the story. And to me, it was saying like Batwoman is a superhero, right, or a hero or whatever, because you can debate on Batman or any of his Bat family being super. They're all just really, really well-fought human beings, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with Arrow and all that stuff. But when you go into the show should have focused on her being a hero. But I feel like a lot of the time, the show, which was also pro-LGBTQ, was really pushing the agenda of that. Not in like a way of like, oh, just forcing you on it. It's just like, that's a part of her life. But then we're going on, like, let that story be about her, who happens to be, the LGBTQ community, not being like, oh, by the way, every narrative was like, oh, throwing it in your face that she was having a complication with her relationship. It like overwhelmed the story of like her conflict with her family, or like it was like mixed in there, like kind of.
It was like too heavy of a balance.
Yeah,
mix,
but then people might argue it's a part of who she is. I'm definitely understand that. I think even some YouTubers and other people have said like it was so heavy on that. Where like the comic where it was like she was doing things and oh, by the way, she has a girlfriend, which is fine, but then to go with like, by the way, that's a main part of her, her storyline in this show, like she beat a villain because she came out as LGBTQ and the villain was also LGBTQ, a young girl who was trying to find herself, and that's how she beat her.
Interesting. I mean, interesting storylines. I've always thought though, like groups that have typically been underrepresented in film or in entertainment and media in general, oftentimes as a way of, I think, sort of auto-correcting the behavior that we saw or auto-correcting the culture, if you will, that there are some shows, there are some productions that serve to sort of do that, to go above and beyond what's necessary to sort of not call out, but to bring attention to something that typically has been not only poo-pooed, but in some cases detested in previous productions. There are some productions that make that thing the center point, or the centerpiece rather, of what they then try and, deliver to that show. And I agree, it does seem a little heavy sometimes, but one of the things that I saw, and not to necessarily, draw direct lines between these two shows, but when Black Lightning came out, do you remember how intentionally black that show was, especially season 1?
Yeah.
Like season 2 and 3 and 4, they started like calming it down a bit. But season 1, episode 1 especially, but season 1, the whole season was that you could tell that and there were 2 black producers, a husband and wife, right? Like
yes.
that produced that.
Yes.
The Brocks or something like that. But either way, you could tell that they were writing a program not for a black audience. I saw somebody put this online and I thought that was so perfect. Like a lot of black shows these days, just to use an example, are not created for black audiences. Like a lot of black shows these days that are created now, or that are being created now, are created for white audiences, almost in a sense to explain what blackness is and how black people are in today's society and times. And they do that to make people, make the majority of the audience more welcome. feel more welcome and comfortable in some of these spaces that used to be exclusive to, just that demographic group.
So the executive producers are Salim Akil and Greg Berlanti, but Akil and his wife
of course,
were
Berlanti
the writers.
does all of them.
But Berlanti does all of them, and Salim Akil is directly involved with that show. Him and his wife.
Yeah. Gotcha. But I say all that to say that, like, I think in these cases, like, obviously not every iteration of Tim Drake's Robin is going to be a bisexual, guy and that's not going to be, drilled into every single storyline from here on out. It is one iteration, and as oftentimes happens in comic books, there's a ton of different iterations of this. But I do think it's something that, hopefully in good time, we don't have to talk about this and say that, hey, there's an issue and there's an episode of of Batman where Tim Drake's Robin is bisexual, or there's an episode of Superman where, Lois Lane is black and that's making headlines or whatever. The idea is to get to a point where that's no longer a big deal. You know what I mean? If we say in America, we keep saying in America, these titles and these tags and these identities, labels don't really actually mean anything. So we'll know that we've made it whenever we stop having these conversations. Not that we're, for encouraging it or making it worse. We're having this conversation, hopefully, so that we can get past this. But I think that is the time when we know that, like, okay, we're good,
Yeah, no, I get that 100%. So where someone's relationship choice is just a relationship choice.
It's just a relationship choice. It's a part of who that person is. But I do understand where people kind of start to feel like it's overwhelming. Like, oh my goodness, like they're forcing it down our throats. It seems like that because these groups have been so tremendously underrepresented in media to this point, that I think even a regular iteration of a relationship or whatever, might ruffle some feathers in a sense. But I do think that some folks, some producers, some writers, some directors, they go out of their way to ensure that the audience knows that there's a focus on this particular thing, this particular demographic group. So good for Tim Drake's Robin. That's what I say. 215-634-8065. That's our toll-free, our number. Our toll-free number is 1-866-361-0900. We got a few minutes left in the show. On the other side, we'll speak with, of course, our next guest, Jovan Alford of TSL Sports. Don't go anywhere. We'll be previewing tonight's Eagles and Steelers game. We'll be right back with more Evening Words right after this.
Comcast has built a broadband network with one simple purpose: to keep customers connected. In the last 10 years, they have invested $30 billion to keep America's largest gig-speed broadband network fast, secure, and reliable. And they work around the clock to build a better network every single day. Learn more at Comcast.com/network. Hope Partnership Middle School offers a quality, subsidized independent school education to students and families in North Philadelphia. Located at 2601 North 11th Street, Hope offers small class sizes, personalized learning, a research-based curriculum, dedicated teachers, and a graduate support program, which supports students through high school graduation. They are currently accepting applications for 5th to 7th grade students for September. For more information, please contact them at info@hope-partnership.org.
WURD Founders Day. Don't miss our annual Founders Day live broadcast and celebration, Thursday, August 26th, honoring the life and legacy of our founder, Walter P. Lomax Jr., MD, featuring a very special broadcast of a ceremonial street naming for Dr. Lomax from 11 a.m. till 1 p.m. at 1800 Wharton Street, the site of his first medical center. Hosted by Charles Ellison. The day will also include a series of virtual panels and conversations exploring health, wealth, and independent media. Start or renew your Forward membership on Founders Day at the special discounted rate of just $80. For more information about WURD Founders Day, visit WURDradio.com. WURD Radio Founders Day is brought to you by Pico, Keystone First, Bank of America, Ready Set Philly, Comcast, Brown's Family ShopRite, Temple University, and Councilmember Kenyatta Johnson, 2nd District.
Join WURD for the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour. This year, we celebrate West Oak Lane, Mantua, North, West, and South Philly. I'm Tiffany Bacon. I'll broadcast live from a different neighborhood each Friday from 10 a.m. until 12 noon. Our next stop is North Philly at the Martin Luther King Recreation Center, 2101 Cecil B. Moore Avenue on Friday, August 13th. Pick up voter registration information, meet special guests, and stand with WURD and be a part of the movement to amplify the voice of the Black community. Show your support and join or renew your 4WURD membership on site. That's the Summer of Freedom Neighborhood Love Tour at the Martin Luther King Recreation Center from 10 a.m. until 12 noon, Friday, August 13th. WURD, showing love this summer.
The WURD Radio Neighborhood Love Tour is sponsored by Comcast and supported by Pico, Keystone First, Ready Set Philly, and Hope Partnership for Education.
WURD TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at ForWord. WURD TV. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent Black media.
Welcome back. It's Evening Words. We do have a few minutes left in the program, so I reserved them for a good buddy of mine and somebody that knows a whole lot about a whole lot of sports. His name is Jovan Alford of DK Nation, and he's, of course, the editor-in-chief of the Sports Daily and host of the TSL podcast. Jovan Alford here for another edition of Sports. What's up, Jovan?
Hey, how you doing? Glad to be back on. 2 times in a week.
2 times in a week. You must have done something right, man. You must have done something right. We're about 45 minutes from the official start of Eagles football season. It all starts in the preseason to me because you get a chance to see a lot of backups and a lot of people that might be vying for a spot and all that other good stuff. Jovan, give us maybe 2 or 3 things that we will be looking forward to seeing in the Eagles. I want to ask you about the Steelers. We saw the Steelers last week. That's fine. And I will avoid being a tremendous homer for this conversation. But for the Eagles, what are we looking forward to seeing on the Eagles? How much of Jalen Hurts are we going to see?
That's a great question. I did have notes for the Steelers too, by the way. But for the
okay, working. Say less.
I think for this first game, for the first preseason game, I think fans, and I think it's hard for some fans to do, I think fans need to treat it how basketball fans are treating the summer league right now, which is just enjoy.
right.
But you get my drift. Just enjoy it. And remember, there was no preseason last year, so technically,
that's right. Yeah.
This is like last year's guys. This is their first preseason game, and everybody's going to have jitters. It's the first time you're on the field. I mean, for the Eagles, this is a new era they're in. They're in the Nick Sirianni era. So I want to see, me personally, I want to see how Jalen Hurts and the Eagles' first-team offense runs. We know Nick Sirianni will be calling the plays, and it will be obviously the plays will be relayed through him from the OC. So I definitely want to see that. I want to see just the wide receiver battle outside of, Rager and Devontae Smith, who's hurt. But I want to see the wide receiver battle between Quez Watkins, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who was the second-round pick.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about him. Stanford zone.
Yes, there you go. I want to see how that battle shakes out between him, Arcega-Whiteside, and John Hightower. And then defensively, I just want to see the secondary linebackers unit. The Eagles secondary, they got a big upgrade with Steven Nelson, former Steeler.
Yeah, there you go.
Upgraded with him playing opposite Darius Slade, which helps, which means Vontae Maggs goes back to his natural position in the nickel. So I think that's perfect for him because we saw last season that you just can't have – he's fast and twitchy, but you can't have a guy that's 5'9" playing on the outside. It just doesn't.
Yeah, probably not a good idea.
It doesn't work. So I'm interested to see how the secondary shakes out behind them. They did draft Zach McPherson out of Texas Tech in the 4th round, so I want to see how he's played. There's a lot of things being written about him and the way he's played. In linebacker unit, just want to see what Eric Wilson can do because we know the Eagles have had a very shaky linebacker unit.
That's a safe way of putting it, yes.
the PC way of putting it. It's been a little shaky, so I want to see what Eric Wilson do. Davion Taylor, this is going to be his second year, who was the athletic linebacker, 3rd-round pick, coming out of Colorado. So I definitely want to see that. And Miles Sanders, a lot of people are talking about Miles Sanders more so of his pass catching and how he's been dropping a lot of passes and things like that. So I want to see that, but again, I'm not going to super, trip because it's the first.
The first preseason game, we're not even used to seeing sometimes a lot of the veteran, at least starters, that are going to be in. But you brought up a good point about last year. There was no preseason at all, so it wasn't a reduced preseason. Wasn't short. It was nothing, zilch. So
just practices.
So September, 4th or 5th, whatever the season started, 6th rather, last year, there were rookies, including Jalen Hurts, right, who were hitting the field for the first time. Now, Jalen Hurts didn't play right away, of course, but rookies last year had very little exposure to this time and to this process. So I want to ask, new offensive scheme, new offensive system, new quarterback, essentially. I know he played last year, Jalen Hurts did, but new quarterbacks, does that mean that we could possibly see more of Jalen in the first half tonight, unlike most typical first preseason games where you don't really see the starter?
Right. I think you could. I mean, I think the Eagles probably want to see how efficient this offense can be, how clean this offense can be. We heard and through our training camp that they're going to tailor the offense to Jalen Hurts' strength. So I'll be interested to see what that means, because a lot of people, they want to necessarily criticize or look back at Jalen Hurts only competing 52% of his passes, even though he was a 60 to 70% passer in his only season at Oklahoma, where he was the Heisman runner-up. So I think a lot of people, forget that about his passing ability, and they just automatically assume that everything's going to be RPO, get him out of the pocket, get him on the run. But he's got an arm. He's got some accuracy. We saw that Oklahoma, who produced 2 number 1 overall picks in Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield. So, I mean, the proof's in the pudding there.
Will we see first-round pick Devontae Smith tonight at all?
Nah, no Devontae Smith. Probably you're going to be looking for him to possibly be ready to play week 1 of the regular season. So no Devontae Smith, but you'll get to see Jalen Reagor, who a lot of people are interested to see what he can, do in his second year as a first-round pick, because last year's first-round pick wasn't necessarily great, but that whole entire season wasn't necessarily great.
There were a lot of rookies that struggled, not just, in Philadelphia, but I think, we don't know. We're never going to know what a COVID loss year now, would be like if you hit the reset button, you say everything was otherwise normal, there's crowds and all that other stuff.
Right.
We don't know what that's like. So I do feel bad in a sense for the guys that came in last year, because that might have stunted their growth, in a sense, for what's going on here. Also, training camp battles and preseason battles that go on during especially these first 3 weeks of the preseason up to, they didn't happen last year. So it's certainly going to be a different entry, entry into this one. What is either the one backup position battle, or not backup, rather the position battle, or the backups that are vying for a position there on the Eagles? If there's like maybe one or two, if you have it, of like the one that you're watching specifically, the one that you think is most interesting, or a player that we should keep our eyes on, not just tonight, but for the next couple of preseason games. Who is that person? What is that battle? What does that look like?
Like I said, wide receiver, I'm definitely looking forward to see what Watkins, Arcega-Whiteside, Hightower, who can kind of separate themselves. I'm even going to throw Travis Fulgham in the mix too, as well, because he had a nice 4 weeks and kind of really tailored off, but it seemed like that was more so what the coaching staff wanted, and they wanted to feature more Alshon Jeffrey, whatever, whatever float their boat. That was the whole coaching staff. So I say that position. I would say the running back position. The Eagles are in a great position. They have about 5, 6, 7 running backs on their roster. We're talking Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, Kenneth Gainwell, who they drafted in the 5th round, Jason Huntley, Kerryon Johnson,
Jesus, man.
Elijah
Are you naming
Holyfield.
NFC East running backs, or just the Eagles? Like, what the heck?
Jason Huntley. There's a lot of running backs. So I'm going to see how the running back competition, because I think Miles Sanders has his spot. I think Kenneth Gainwell has his spot as 5th round pick. Boston Scott, I think he has his pick. I think he has his spot too, just what he can bring, and in the passing game and as a returner. But I'm interested because I think the Eagles probably aren't going to keep maybe 4 running backs at the most on the active roster. So also it'll be fun. It'll be nice to see who kind of sticks out between Jordan Howard, Kerryon Johnson, et cetera, and then. On the other side of the field, I want to watch to see how the backup job for the Steelers go, because there's a lot of discussion and a lot of things around, surrounding Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah, his future. And I want to see who separates himself between Dwayne Haskins, Mason Rudolph, and Josh Dobbs. A lot of people on the social media wasn't too high of Dwayne Haskins, first game performance, but
he didn't look super sharp.
He didn't look super sharp, but we gotta, and like someone pointed out to me, he can't, he also had receivers drop some passes, and quarterbacks can't catch. So I want to see how that plays out too, because that's going to be big. It might honestly determine what Roethlisberger does, right? Like,
potentially.
If he sees that, okay, they might not be in a good spot, I think I might want to come back one more year. He might do it, but Dwayne Haskins, it seems like with the Steelers going out and getting him, last off season or something like that, getting them early.
I don't even think they waited that long. I think
they didn't wait.
Like week 14 or 15.
They didn't wait that long, and that kind of tells you that they believe that this kid still has it, and I believe in him as well as a first round pick.
I'm hoping he pans out. It'd be really nice to kind of that'd be a really nice transition from Big Ben to whoever is next on the Steelers. Certainly a lot to look for with their rookie running back out of the University of Alabama, Najee Harris. As well, he got a lot of carries in that first game. I expect him to do the same thing in this game too. So definitely something to look out for as well. Speaking, though, of Alabama and Jalen Hurts, I guess we could say, speaking of Alabama and Oklahoma, thank you, Jalen, for making this transition a lot easier. We did have a caller earlier that asked about the amalgamation, if you will, of the SEC and now University of Texas and University of Oklahoma, which are now going to be all, one, I guess, kit and caboodle. I guess Texas and Oklahoma are going to be a part of SEC West, right?
Or just in the SEC in general.
Or just in the SEC in general. I don't know how they're going to work that out, but that's fine. There's a concern as well. I mean, already, 4 or 5 of the best programs in the country are in the SEC already. You're taking 2 of the better programs, if not, I don't want to say the best programs, but 2 of the better programs in the Big 12, I guess that would be. And now they're going to be in the SEC as well. So should we just buy the SEC channel now? If you're a college football fan, do you just buy the SEC channel and set it and forget it and just watch one conference for the rest of the year? Or is this something that's actually good or could potentially be good for college football?
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily good for college football just because you're stacking so many powers in one conference. You already look, the SEC's already loaded with the Alabamas, with the Georgias, Florida, with what Dan Mullen's doing down there. So you look at those 3, and then you add in Texas, Oklahoma, coming down in years down the road. It makes them just a superpower. And, people don't have to buy the SEC network because we know the SEC and CBS, they always pick the, the top game, on Saturday at 3:30 slot. For the SEC. So I think a lot of people think this is like a precursor because obviously the college football playoff might be expanding to 12 teams. So this kind of gives, the SEC probably more leeway into saying, all right, well, we don't have to fight, it's only not 4 teams, it's 12 teams now. So we can kind of add
more than one of us can get in without people getting upset.
Right, exactly. But now the question I think for a lot of people is what now happens to the Big 12? Does the Big 12 try to go after other schools? Do they try to maybe go after, and I'm just throwing out there, I don't know these things, I'm not an expert on it, but maybe do they go after University of Houston in the American Athletic Conference? Do they go after, TCU's already there. Do they go after University of Houston? Do they go after maybe BYU, who's an independent, or in the Mountain West?
Mountain West, yeah.
Yeah, do they go after BYU and add them? Would be a nice boom. Or
teams in the MEAC right there in the middle as well. The Minnesota, the Memo guy, that comes all the way down. All the schools that are within there could be, but I would assume that these schools have to have at least some sort of size or some sort of prominence to kind of fit in a power conference, as they refer to. It's like 5 power conferences in the country when it comes to football.
Yeah, you gotta have it, and it also what you do on the field. Like if you're like a top group of 5 school, like a BYU we've seen, or even a Cincinnati, or even a Houston who's been like really good in AAC, you might get, might say, oh yeah, I want to take my talents, to the Big 12, or the Big 12 might reach out to them. So, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, because if the Big 12 somehow disbands or they kind of add more schools, I think that could be a trickle down effect of what happens in the Pac-12 and what also happens in the Big 10.
Yeah, because you have to figure that the realignment must mean that something else is shifting. And we're going to be paying attention to this also, Jovan, as, of course, player likenesses and images can now be used to get them some money. And so you would think, if you have a super conference that's formed in the SEC, then there's, more of the TV games that you'll see on TV are going to be SEC leaning, or they're going to want to make sure that the better teams are on TV all the time, which might mean that you have a media swarm or something that happens where media starts to gather around some of these concepts of, hey, these teams are good, let's go down there and cover them. Forget these other schools and these other conferences. Let's go down and cover them. And we know now if players can now make money off their name, image, and likeness, the more you have, the more that algorithm, if you will, sort of gets amplified. And maybe that has something to do with the conference. Maybe that that as well. So we will keep an eye out on that one as well. Jovan, that is all the time we have for today, but I did want folks to reach out if they have questions or if they want to check out some more of your work. Where can they go?
So you can check me out on Twitter at Jovan10, and you can check out my work at DraftKings, DKNation.DraftKings.com, sports betting, daily fantasy, all right there. Doesn't matter the sport, it's there. And then obviously Philadelphia Sports, TotalSportsLive.com, and the TSL podcast, which is found on all the various platforms, Spotify, Anchor, et cetera, et cetera.
Beautifully done. I appreciate it. 7:30 tonight. It's Eagles and Steelers from Philadelphia. Thanks for previewing the game. We'll talk to you again soon, Jovan, on another edition of Sports. And we are out of time. Man, time flies, man. I thought they said we got 3 hours every day, Eric. And here we are at the end of the 3 hours. And somebody gave me a raw deal. I want more. All right, I'll come back next week. How about that? Next Monday at 4, we'll be back here on another edition of Evening Words. Shout out to Eric the Frosty Phoenix Nixon at Frosty Phoenix on the social medias. Everyone who joined us today on the show this week. On the show, I appreciate you. I will see you all this weekend, or after the weekend, rather. Have a safe and great weekend. Go check out All Love Block Party is this weekend. That's happening this Saturday. My homies all going to be there as well. You should too. I will see you all on Monday. Peace.